Chapter 1167. Although they did not say it explicitly and would not say it out loud to increase the pressure on Zhuo, both husband and wife knew that Zhuo was round, was extremely dangerous and crucial. If it was purely to prevent someone from causing trouble, any one of these four people would be able to guarantee that nothing would go wrong. However, Zhuo's breakthrough was an extension of the heavenly Tao. What was involved was not only the human Tao. Even if Zhuo Changlu and his wife were to personally protect him, they could not guarantee that there would not be any accidents during this breakthrough. If it was only the will of the heavenly Tao of the Umno Alliance and the Astral Souls Tao League, it would be fine. However, this time, there was most likely something else strange. There would be an inexplicable variable. The reason was very simple. Zhuo had taken the initiative to bear the entire Dragon Phoenix tribulation by himself. It had already increased the danger factor by several times. This was the Dragon Phoenix tribulation, the second great tribulation in the world. Zhuo Changlu and his wife were not confident at all about whether they could survive it perfectly. If they only wanted to survive, there was a 10,000% chance that they could. Even without any protection, Zhuo could survive it by himself. However, the key was the word perfect, because once this breakthrough started with a perfect start, it would be the first step outside the heavenly Tao. In other words, there was hope for the future to transcend the heavenly Tao. Even Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding had never heard of anyone achieving this kind of achievement. This kind of achievement was just a guess of the people at the top of the world. If possible, I want to break through tonight. Zhuo said. He couldn't hold it in any longer. That impatient feeling of I want to show off had turned his bones into white clouds. If it wasn't for the string of pendants at his crotch, he might have already floated up to the sky. No, not today. Wu Yuding said, tonight is not the time. The fastest time for you to break through will have to wait until tomorrow night. Why? Zhuo was puzzled by the timing. Because you still have some leeway now. You can still do more preparation work. Wu Yuding touched her interspatial ring and said, I have quite a few natural treasures here. I was planning to make a meal of chive pancakes. But now that you're using it as an opportunity to break through, you could be considered to have made the best use of it and complemented each other. As he spoke, he began to take them out one by one. Bai Yunduo, who was at the side, was dazzled by the sight. This is the Umno Alliance's hurricane crab. This is the water flame bamboo. This is tranquil lotus root from the Tao League. When should you eat it? And this is the so-called ingredients that Wu Yuding had collected for such a long time finally came in handy today. Then there was a long and tireless explanation, such as what to eat before breaking through, how much to eat, what to eat first when encountering white lightning, what to eat when encountering red lightning. Encountering that, then he began to take out all kinds of protective treasures. Just for this breakthrough of yours, your father and I spent a few days looking for those hidden demonic beasts. After a few days of hard work, we finally found a heavenly king-level demonic beast. After a friendly negotiation, this demonic beast contributed a piece of skin. Although it was only one piece, the amount was enough. It was enough for me to make a pair of shoes, a pair of gloves, a hat, a waistcoat, a vest, and a coat for you. Originally, I wanted to make a set for Nian Nian. Isn't it the most popular couple outfits between young couples? But your father pitted that monster and said that it had shrunk its body. The skin on its entire body was enough. If we make another set, it would inevitably grow a new layer. Not only would it not be powerful enough, it would also seem that we were too much of a bully. We have to be kind to others. We can't be too unethical. Wu Yuding was a little regretful. She patted Zhuo Xiaonian on the shoulder and said, but it doesn't matter. That monster said that when we're done here, we can go to him again. He will take us to find another monster of the same level as him, and let that monster contribute one or two. By the way, this monster specifically said that the other one is beautiful and the fur pattern is more suitable for making clothes. Bai Yunduo looked up. She really had no strength to complain. How much did he have to bully this demonic beast for it to reach such a state? That was a heavenly king-level monster. Its real combat power was definitely above the ordinary heavenly king level. But in the hands of Master, it seemed to be more like raising an obedient kitten. And this helmet, it's the raging fire witch's protective treasure. I originally wanted his armor, but I'm a thin-skinned person. I'm really embarrassed to ask for all of them, so I only ask for a helmet. I'll make do with it. This shield is the spiritual treasure of the Tao League's Taoist foam. He owes us so much. This shield is definitely not enough. Just treat it as interest. You don't have to have any psychological burden. This is, in the blink of an eye, helmets, shields, breastplates, and other protective treasures. Zhou Xiaoduo had received 20 to 30 of them. Every one of them was a rare heaven-grade treasure. It was like a dream item. Wu Yuting thought for a long time and looked up at Zhou Chonglu. Her meaning was obviously, what else do you want to add? Did I miss anything? Can you check and fill in the gaps? Zhou Chonglu sighed. Even though his bearing and self-restraint had reached the peak, he still couldn't help but roll his eyes at this moment. These things you have prepared. I feel that it is enough for me to pass the tribulation. Bullshit, Wu Yuting scolded. Then she suddenly took out a pile of small bottles as if she just remembered something. If you're a little weak and your spiritual chi and vital essence can't keep up, break one and throw it into your mouth. In addition, don't use the stone in your hand that can recover quickly. Only use it at the most critical moment. Don't use it if you can, understand? Mom, how do you know about that thing? Huh? After finishing the arrangement, Wu Yuting still frowned and thought for a long time. After confirming that there were no omissions, she said, have you thought of a place to break through? Were you most confident? So as Xiaoduo said tentatively, if you want a more special place that makes me feel more secure, I want to break through on the cliff where Mr. Qin fell last time. That place is very special and strange, but it makes me feel very relieved. Wu Yuting said flatly, no. Which place is not good? No? So as Xiaoduo opened his eyes wide. Why? Wu Yuting was speechless for a moment. Then she said, I think that place is too remote. Your breakthrough this time needs the right time, the right place, the right people, and the right luck. We have a lot of people, but the right luck is a little lacking. She thought for a moment and said, how about breaking through in the sky above Shangjing City? Well, the chi of the 9 and 5 in the human world above the imperial palace is enough to offset part of the heavenly tribulation. Zhou Chonglu was speechless. The direct result of that is that a lot of the imperial family's luck will be consumed. There are few people in the imperial family who lack luck. They will be exhausted because of the decline of their luck and die prematurely. Well, more than half of the imperial family will be overturned in this place. Wu Yuting rolled her eyes and murmured, it doesn't matter, right? Zhou Zhonglu pondered for a moment. Then he said, it's possible to make a breakthrough on that cliff. After all, it's a dangerous place. So, you can get the geographical advantage. Moreover, you can also get the reverse nurturing from the dead. Wu Yuting was unhappy. According to her idea, it was best to break through in the imperial palace. The emperor's chi of the past dynasties, the real dragon's chi of a human world, the emperor's chi of the 9 and 5, plus the chi of a Yinwu country, and the collective chi of the astral soul's continent, would be used to break through the heavenly tribulation. This was the best choice. Although after the event, the heavenly tribulation would be settled, and the chi of the heavenly tribulation would be greatly weakened. It was very likely that it would cause a lot of casualties in the imperial family. It was also possible that they would not have any descendants. However, these were not in Wu Yuting's consideration. In her opinion, the imperial family. Perhaps Xiaoduo was right about her mother's judgment. The daughter of the demon lord was, of course, the great demon lord. However, under Zhou Chonglu's persuasion, she finally gave up this seemingly perfect plan. The location was confirmed, and the rest would be easy to discuss. Mom, Li Qinglong and the others want to observe my breakthrough. So Xiaoduo said, what do you think? No. Zhou Chonglu, Wu Yuting, and Bai Yunduo said in unison, do you think they're watching a show? They actually want to form a group to observe your breakthrough? Wu Yuting pointed a finger at Zhou Xiaoduo's forehead, causing him to stagger. Then she felt that it was too easy to do so, so she bent her finger and flicked his forehead. There was a thump. The process of your breakthrough is destined to be different from everyone else's. So what Changlu said, what's more, after watching your breakthrough, it's very likely that they will lose their confidence in safely breaking through to the Ascension realm. Wu Yuting nodded and sighed in her heart. Although breaking through to the Ascension realm was crossing the true boundary between immortal and mortal and was destined to usher in the so-called heavenly tribulation. If an ordinary person broke through to the Ascension realm, it would just be a baptism of heavenly refinement, heavenly punishment, and heavenly refinement. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo's breakthrough this time was a true heavenly tribulation. Moreover, it was the Dragon Han tribulation. The so-called Dragon Han tribulation was the second great tribulation between heaven and earth. It was also the first great tribulation after the first judgment of heaven and earth. The danger was that looking at Zhuo Xiaoduo, who still didn't know anything but had a look of anticipation and even eagerness to try. Wu Yuting sighed. However, she couldn't help but feel flustered and exasperated. She pointed a finger at his forehead. This child, can't you stop making me worry? Who would have thought that this kid would walk step by step, and even surpass the heavenly Tao? Zhuo Xianyan was the bearer of the Phoenix bloodline. Zhuo Changlu and his wife already knew about this when they first picked up Zhuo Xianyan. However, even Zhuo Changlu and his wife didn't expect that. Their biological son would actually have the life chart of the hidden dragon. Chapter 1168. Furthermore, Zhuo Xiaoduo was extremely protective of his wife. He took on the Phoenix pole spirit all by himself. The most direct result of this was that their destinies were completely intertwined. After a series of coincidences, the Dragon Phoenix tribulation was formed. Who do you think you can find a reason with? Thinking about Zhuo Xiaoduo's journey, he was a young dragon in hibernation. Then a hidden dragon was born. After that, he worshipped the Flood, which is his godfather. He had the best destiny of the Umno Alliance and the Astral Souls. If the Astral Souls and the Tao League were included, then the destiny of the three sides converged on one person. His first battle after leaving the mountain was against the heavenly Tao of the demon race's killing Wolf Star Lord. Then he walked step by step, picking up all kinds of treasures of the heavenly Tao's destiny. Now that he had come to Shangjing, he was actually guided by the Wang family's conspiracy. A conspiracy led by the Big Dipper and the Big Dipper, which led to the heavenly Tao's counterattack. Perhaps that was not all. Because this kid had been tainted by spiritual and demonic luck, that this result and the current situation made Zhuo Zhonglu feel that it was extremely troublesome. In my life, I've become the world's #1, the pinnacle of this world, but I've never enjoyed such treatment. This kid is so young. Zhuo Changlu sighed in his heart. For a moment, he did not know what to say. If his guess was correct, the thing that had been troubling Zhuo Xiaoduo's aptitude since childhood and could help him soar to the sky should be the creation plate. If he added the destiny of that thing and its ability to carry destiny, the future might be. Zhuo Changlu felt his heart beating faster and faster. Even though he could be called the world's #1, he had no confidence in protecting Zhuo Xiaoduo safely through this Dragon Han tribulation. Because at the most critical moment, he still had to rely on Zhuo Xiaoduo to face it himself. At that time, if he intervened, the heavenly tribulation would only increase its power by 10,000 times. Zhuo Xiaoduo would be killed by his own father. Sigh. Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't know about the sadness in his parents' hearts. He only saw that his parents were very happy for him and were very concerned about him. There were even some who personally stood guard for him. What's more, when Yin Cat broke through, there wasn't even a gust of wind, let alone thunder. This so-called breakthrough was no different from the breakthrough of other cultivation realms. There was no difference at all, although Wu Yuting had reminded him repeatedly, and Zhuo Xiaoduo had also repeatedly promised that he would pay attention and be careful. But in reality, he really didn't take it to heart. With his current equipment, Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he could definitely fight his way up MT Sorcerer. Looking at my parents' physiognomy, it was clear that they didn't have the tragedy of losing a child in their middle age. That meant that not only would I be fine this time, I would also be fine in the future. Then, He looked at Nyan Cat's face. Oh ha! There was no sign of her being a widow at all. This proved again and again that Xiaoduo was very safe. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that everything was foolproof. While he was feeling refreshed, he suddenly remembered something and said, Dad, Mom, I forgot to tell you a piece of good news. What good news? Zhuo Changlu couldn't help but be curious. Well, it's Nyan Cat. She has found another goddaughter for you. Hee, isn't it great news? Zhuo Xiaoduo attentively massaged Wu Yuding's shoulders, and Zhuo Xiaoyan attentively massaged Zhuo Changlu's legs. This was the way the two of them fawned on their parents, and it worked every time. Zhuo Changlu shook his neck, and Wu Yuding shook her legs. Who is it? That person, Emoshwani. It's like this. Zhuo Xiaoduo said that you clan is too much. They actually look down on people. Such an old-fashioned clan is actually the first in Shangjing. So eat it. Bai Yunduo covered her face with her hands. The Yu clan was doomed this time. They would probably be skinned alive by Yu Dantian one by one. Who would be able to withstand such unwarranted attention? Sure enough, Zhuo Changlu was furious and shouted, How did the Yu clan become like this? Tonight, ask your god sister to come and kowtow, and then confirm it. Then, spread my words. I am not satisfied with this marriage. The Yu clan is too lowly. How can they be worthy of our daughter? Master, Bai Yunduo knelt down with a thud. It's not easy for Brother Yu. This matter has nothing to do with Brother Yu. If you don't teach them a lesson, the younger generation of the Yu clan may become like the Wang clan. Zhuo Changlu said, and Yunduo, the Bai clan that you came from should also be taught a lesson. We have been fighting for our entire lives, not to let our families ride on everyone else's heads and do whatever they want. If that was all, it would have been enough. These younger generation bastards are all spoiled. Where's the decency? Let's start with the Yu clan. Bai Yunduo, who had invited trouble, bowed and accepted the lesson with a face full of sympathy. The sympathy was for Yu Dantian. Brother Yu, I have done my best. Good luck to you that night. In Zhuo Xiaoyan's courtyard, the Zhuo clan held a long-awaited family banquet. This banquet was naturally held to witness the meeting between Zhuo Xiaoyan and Emoshwani and Jinlan, as well as the parents of the two clans. This news was not important to Shangjing. Only a few people knew about it. However, Yu Xia, who had been shamelessly following Emoshwani, naturally knew about it. He went home in the afternoon. Emoshwani had to bring her parents to the Zhuo clan's courtyard, so she definitely had no time at night. Moreover, she had to tidy herself up in the afternoon, so she naturally had no time to deal with the little fatty. After leaving Emoshwani's side, the little fatty felt very bored. He did not want to go anywhere else, so he returned to the clan unhappily. When he returned home, he was surprised to find that the old ancestors were all there. None of them had gone to sleep. Since he did that thing yesterday, it seemed that the old ancestors were all free. Every time he came back, he would see the old men walking around with their hands behind their backs. No matter how he tried to hide, he would always bump into them. Hey, what? How is your partner? The adventurer felt that all of them had gone crazy, hadn't they? You were so against it before, but now. It's as if you're afraid that I can't catch up to her. I really don't understand this change. However, in terms of personal experience, this treatment was much better than the treatment he received before. Since he entered the clan, 7 old men had already asked him, Hey, little fatty, how is your partner? They all pretended to meet him by chance, with a what a coincidence look on their faces. The questions that came out of their mouths were similar, and it did not seem like a coincidence at all. At most, there were some slight differences in their choice of words. At first, Yu Xia was flattered, but gradually he felt that something was wrong. In the end, that feeling turned into shock, because in front of him, there were dozens of old men walking around with their hands behind their backs. It was obvious that they were all waiting to bump into him. What's going on here? What details did I miss? Yu Xia's head was about to explode from thinking, but he was still at a loss. Finally, an old man seemed to have accidentally noticed the ranger and asked the same question in a similar and natural manner. What's wrong with you? What the hell? How's your girlfriend? Yu Xia's teeth hurt. You're all like repeating machines. What are you trying to do? However, the identity of the person in front of him was very different. He could only suppress his anger and say helplessly, "It's okay. It's okay. It's not okay." This old man was Yuxia's grandfather, a biological grandfather. Naturally, he had more privileges than the other elders. He ordered straightforwardly, "Don't go. Tell me the situation before you go." Upon hearing that, people came out of the garden, the nursery, the pool, the rockery, the corridor, the front door, the hall. A group of old men walked out one by one, pretending to have nothing to do. In short, Hero Yu's surroundings were filled with people in an instant. He did not even have to find an excuse for being late. "Hey, why are there so many people gathered here? What are you all doing? Is there any big news?" Thus, he naturally leaned over and stared at the ranger without blinking. It was clear that the ancestors were very concerned about the marriage of this young man in front of them. "Tell me, what's the progress now?" Yuxia's grandfather took advantage of his seniority and used his identity as Yuxia's biological grandfather to grab Yuxia and interrogate him. "It's still the same, Grandpa." "What's still the same?" "It's just that it's still lukewarm." "Sigh, how can it be lukewarm? Why don't you take the initiative?" "If I don't take the initiative in my pursuit, I really don't know what is. But the atmosphere between us is lukewarm." Yuxia sighed. "Grandpa, can you just leave it alone? It's not easy for me to get into a relationship. There are hundreds of old men following behind me. What is this? Evil creature. We're just concerned about you. What's wrong with asking?" "That's right. This old man will pass away in a few years." "What's wrong with asking?" "That's right. This old man is already so old. All I want is to look at shrimps and find a wife." For a moment, Yuxia only felt powerless to complain. He could not explain himself clearly. It was hard to explain. "You guys have been like this for hundreds and thousands of years. Even now, you're still alive and kicking. I reckon that after hundreds and thousands of years, even I will be gone. You'll still be alive and kicking. You'll still have to talk to your descendants like this. To think that you have the guts to say such things now. What's the situation? Hurry up and tell us. We're all experienced people. We can help you out." Thus, after Yuxia spoke for a while, the old men all blew their beards and glared at him. "How can you talk about love like this? Are you stupid? You're so stupid. You're so stupid. You should be like this. Then kiss when it's time to kiss, touch when it's time to. Why are you so honest?" Chapter 1169. The old men surrounded Wandering Hero and lectured him. You have the face to call yourself a member of the Yu family and the future head of the family. You don't even know how to date. It's not a problem of whether you know how to date or not. This problem of yours would have been solved by a scumbag. You're not bad either. How can you lose to a scumbag? What are you talking about? What if you really become a scumbag? Don't use your youth to teach little shrimps the wrong things. That's right. Then the group of old men began to talk about their history of picking up girls in the past, hoping that one sentence would give Wandering Hero some experience. They talked until their saliva was flying everywhere. Wandering Hero's face was ashen, as if his parents had died. "Oh my God, save me. How can I have the face to talk about picking up girls with a group of old ancestors here?" The group of old men talked until their saliva was flying everywhere, their faces full of disappointment. They wished that Wandering Hero could carry Mo, Xian back right now, riding the phoenix and riding the dragon, crossing the sea, but not the water, doing that in the rain and mountains. That Wandering Hero became more and more confused, as if he had fallen into a fog. He didn't understand what was going on at all. "Right, you haven't done anything yet, and you haven't even gotten a wife yet. Why are you back so early? Your attitude isn't right." Wandering Hero's grandfather said discontentedly, "What time is it? It's not even dark yet. Why are you back so early? Logically speaking, it's already dark. You shouldn't be back, but you're already home." The other old men suddenly realized, "Yes, is this how you act when you're in love? Where's your tough attitude from before? Where's your tenacity? Where's your stubbornness? What disgrace! Who pursues girls like this? Isn't it all about being lovey-dovey under the moonlight? You're back so early, what about the moonlight? Let me ask you, what about the moonlight?" The old men were angry. They felt that wandering hero was too careless. How can you be so careless when chasing girls? Shouldn't chasing a girl be that, and that? The ranger was dumbfounded. I didn't have a choice. Xian, he has something to do tonight. So his parents are coming back tonight, and they called to have dinner together. The Zhou family is preparing a family feast, and Xian, he has to prepare gifts and dress up for the feast, so she sent me back. What else can I do other than come back early? So his parents are back. In an instant, the group of old men was dumbfounded. Shall the two families meet tonight and kowtow to confirm their relationship? Family dinner tonight. So a family's banquet. The legendary family banquet. The group of old men could not help but hold their breaths. In an instant, the entire courtyard was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. The sudden silence made little hero Yu feel suffocated. He looked around in panic. What's going on? Why did they suddenly stop moving? Furthermore, what was going on with their faces that looked like they were in a pilgrimage? After a long, long time, Grandpa, little shrimp called out timidly. Tee. The few old men came back to their senses with their teeth chattering. They looked at each other in dismay, but they all felt as if a century had passed just now. Family dinner. The oldest ancestor had a look of fascination on his face. His eyes were filled with longing, so much so that they were practically glowing. It was a kind of, if I could attend this family dinner, I would be willing to sacrifice the rest of my life. The old men smacked their lips as they fantasized. After a long, long time, finally, one of the old men regained his senses. That's not right, little shrimp. Logically speaking, you should be able to attend this family dinner. Didn't Xian invite you? The ranger scratched his head and said, she invited me to go with her, but I felt that it would be awkward for me to be there at such a time. I didn't know what identity I should use, so I refused. Then, Xian, he chased me away. Refused, rejected. Him, refused. For a moment, the old men felt like there were flocks of crows above their heads, cawing as they flew past. In an instant, one of the old men fell to the ground, his limbs spasming. Why you? The old ancestor pointed a finger at little hero Yu's face, trembling. Why, you're really something. You're probably the only person in the world who can refuse this family dinner. You're the first. You've unlocked a new achievement. You've really created history. This achievement is not only unprecedented, it's also unheard of. You're really unyielding. Why you're really? Little hero Yu, why can't I understand why this is happening? Are they all crazy? Hurry up and call them. Call them now. Tell them that you came back to prepare a gift. You still have to go with her. Little hero Yu's grandfather urged. That's not good. Little hero Yu was unwilling. Hurry up. The old man was furious. Hurry up. How can you be so assured to let Xian go alone? She doesn't come from a big family. What if she's rude? This is the reunion dinner. It's such an important occasion. You're raised by our family. You should know more about these things than Xian, right? The old men immediately came up with countless excuses. Besides, as Xian Yi's boyfriend, shouldn't you let your adoptive parents check on you? How can you run away at such an important time? What's the difference between you and a deserter? You're a disgrace to our Yu family. You deserter. Little hero Yu gradually felt that he had committed a terrible crime. As the saying goes, when you're condemned by thousands, you're guilty even if you're not guilty. This was probably the atmosphere, this feeling. So he called Mo Xuani. Mo Xuani didn't say anything. He only said, I'll wait for you. And so, in a few seconds, the old men had already prepared countless gifts for little hero Yu to bring them all. Little hero Yu clearly remembered few of them. They were clearly heirlooms of the Yu family. In the past, if he had wanted to take a look at them, he would have been beaten to a pulp. But now he had stuffed all of them into his spatial ring. However, the truth was even more excessive than the wandering hero had imagined. The top 10 treasures in the entire Yu family's treasure trove were all given to the wandering hero. Little hero Yu, who didn't know what was going on, was dumbfounded. He never thought that as the young master of the Yu family, there would be a day when he would be knocked out by treasures. But today he was completely bewitched. Under the constant urging, little fatty Yu walked out of the house in a daze. His feet didn't feel like he was walking on clouds. His mind was a messed up. Fortunately, there were still some conscious family guards who brought him to Mo Shwani's house. They arrived at their destination in less than 2 minutes. Little hero Yu was still in a daze. How did you get here so quickly? Mo Shwani was shocked. He felt like little hero Yu had appeared right after he hung up the phone. He didn't even have time to go to the toilet. If he didn't know about this guy's lazy personality, he would have thought that this guy's cultivation had improved greatly. He could actually tear through space and come here directly. I'm here to accompany you. I'll accompany you to the family feast. Little hero Yu said dizzily. Mo Shwani felt that this guy was a little crazy, but he didn't think too much about it. After changing a few clothes, he helped his parents dress up. Finally, the family of 3 stood in front of the mirror and looked at themselves. Little hero Yu gave him some advice. Is this okay? Little hero Yu was in a daze. Yes. 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 In fact, his eyes were still dazed, and he couldn't see anything. Then let's go. Let's go. Why don't you turn around? What's wrong with you today? Mo Shwani looked at little hero Yu strangely. How did this guy become an idiot? How could he have such a boyfriend? Oh. Little hero Yu turned around in a daze and suddenly rushed to the faucet. He turned on the faucet and poured cold water on his head. I feel like I've been dreaming for the past 2 days. Everything is so unreal. Everything is so mysterious or even magical. Mo Shwani. It was already half an hour later when they really left the house. Under the protection of the guards, the group of people left the house in high spirits, but also a little nervous. Mo Shwani knew that Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan were actually from ordinary families in Phoenix City. She knew this very well. Therefore, she felt that as long as she was respectful and acted normal, it would be enough. She was going to meet her adopted sister's parents, not her boyfriend's parents. For Mo Shwani, the pressure was much less. It was close to being negligible. At this time, little hero Yu's mind was finally clear. He began to think about the cause and effect that after he finally succeeded in making himself dizzy again, he arrived at the small courtyard where Zhuo Xiaoyan lived. Knock, knock, knock. He knocked on the door. Zhuo Xiaoduo personally opened the door and welcomed Mo Shwani and her family in. After they entered, they saw that everyone was in a happy mood. Many people were gathered in one place. It could be said that this was the largest number of people since Zhuo Xiaoyan's new residence was completed. Other than Zhuo Xiaoduo's family, and Bai Yunduo, Li Chenglong, and the rest of the 12 people were all sitting upright and still. They looked honest and well-behaved with a serious face and were dressed neatly. At first glance, it was obvious that they were a group of very sensible and well-behaved children. These people all went to the Liu family in the afternoon. Why did Principal Yuan Yue give them such a big gift? Especially Yu Moyan, who almost emptied his family's savings. However, when he touched the jade pendant hanging around his neck, he felt a little guilty. He felt that what he did was far from enough. Chapter 1170. Mo Shwani's family filed in. Wu Yuding and Zhuo Chonglu welcomed them with a smile, while Bai Yunduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan followed by their sides. Is this Shwani? This child is so beautiful. Is this Brother Mu? And sister-in-law? Come sit in the room. Mo Shwani's family had an inexplicable feeling. The man and woman in front of them had a graceful bearing, and they exuded a sense of closeness from the inside out. There was not the slightest bit of arrogance to speak of, and it was a peaceful feeling that came from the bottom of their hearts. A feeling of goodwill that came from the bottom of their hearts suddenly surged up. After exchanging a few words with each other, it was as if they were brothers who had been separated from each other for 80 years in the chaos of war. Zhuo Zhonglu and Wu Yuding were the top powerhouses of this era. While they were comprehending the mortal dust incarnation, they were able to restrain their imposing manner and become indifferent. They were no different from Father and Mother Zhuo, who were ordinary people in Phoenix City in the past. They were completely different from the so-called amiable and approachable people of the upper echelons. They were truly ordinary people. With their countless years of experience in the world, the Mu couple instantly felt as if the people in front of them were their own brothers. After their daughter returned, Mu Tsung-jun and his wife changed their daughter's name to Mu Xuani. For the sake of familiarity in the book, I still used Imo Xuani. Then, without any superfluous words, under the witness of everyone, Imo Xuani and Zhua Xiaoyan kowtowed to their parents. The two sisters gave each other gifts, and the two parents gave their adopted daughters gifts. After a very simple process, the ceremony was completed. After that, Xiao Duo, Li Chenglong, and the others gave their gift to congratulate the two sisters on becoming sworn sisters. The whole process was simple, but it did not lose its grandeur. It was simple, and there were no complications. It made people feel that everything was so logical and natural as flowing water and floating clouds. Then, everyone went to the hall and sat around a large table. Everyone took their seats. The food had already been prepared, and they just had to take it out from their spatial rings. For jugs of wine were opened at the same time, and the aroma of the wine filled the air. The four elders sat at the top. Bai Yunduo, accompanied by Wu Yuding, Xiaoyan, and Imo Xuani, sat below them, and then Xiao Duo and his brother sat in 4 rows. Let the family feast begin. Today is an authentic family feast, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. There's no need to be restrained. Ha ha ha. Zhou Changlu seemed very happy. Most parents were even happier. Mu even felt a little emotional. The Zhou couple's foundation had been destroyed, and they were already crippled. According to his daughter, although the Zhou couple were ordinary people, their son and daughter were not ordinary. They were outstanding talents of a younger generation. If his daughter could become friends with them, she would naturally benefit a lot in the future. Strictly speaking, this oath of brotherhood was still a social climb for the family. However, the Zhou couple was extremely amiable and sincere towards the two of them. It made the two of them feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. They couldn't help but speak a lot of heartfelt words. When they spoke emotionally, tears streamed down their faces. Wu Yuding let out a long sigh. This was really the most pitiful thing in the world that, until they sat down, that Yu Xian, who had been frozen for a long time, woke up from his daze. Why did I do nothing from the beginning to the end? No one stopped me, but why didn't I find a chance to show my face from the beginning to the end? I didn't have a chance to speak. I didn't have a chance to go forward. I didn't have a chance to give gifts. I didn't have a chance to give my blessings to what's going on. I'm not that stupid of a person. It wasn't until everyone picked up their chopsticks and ate a few mouthfuls that Yu Xian realized he had become an invisible person. Is my sense of existence that insignificant? How can this be? So he quickly put on a smile and said, Xian, Uncle Andy. Zhou Changlu frowned slightly and looked at Yu Xian. He was a little hesitant and puzzled as he asked, This young man is... Wu Yuding also frowned. I've never seen him before. Mo Xianyi's parents smiled and said, This is Xianyi's. Well, he's her boyfriend. Xiaoyu is a good young man. He's very hardworking, and his family background is not bad. Zhou Changlu's expression immediately turned better, and he smiled. So he's Xianyi's boyfriend. Mo Xian didn't know why, but she raised her head and said, He's not yet. As soon as she said that, she was stunned. Why did I say that? Zhou Changlu smiled and said amiably, Sit down, young man. He turned to Mu Tsung-jun and his wife and said, Well, brothers of the Mu family, we're a family now. I'm a few years older than you, and I've experienced more things. I don't know if I should say something. Brothers Zhua, you're too polite. We're a family. If there's anything you shouldn't say, just say it. Yes, Brother Zhua is Xian Yi's adoptive father. If you have any opinions about her, just say it. She's your daughter. So Zhanglu chuckled and said, Come to think of it, it's not easy for parents like us. You see, we've raised such a little thing from a little meatball that didn't know anything. But we've raised it all the way to this day. What can we not worry about? Sigh. Wu Yuding said, Do you still remember these two little debt collectors? When they were young, they didn't know anything. It was me who raised them. Puff. Li Chenglong almost choked on his wine. The dozen or so people gave Xiao Duo a thumbs up at the same time. The food was really good. But when Mo Xianyi's parents heard this, they felt very sympathetic. This topic had always been a common topic for all parents. Suddenly, the conversation became more and more emotional. Now that the child is grown up, we're old. It's with Changlu sighed. But I'm starting to worry about their marriage. I'm afraid that they'll meet the wrong person, that they'll be bullied, that they'll be let down, that they'll... Sigh. It's really worrying my heart. In the past, I heard that when a child was 100 years old, he would worry for 99 years. I thought it was just an exaggeration. Now that it's happening to me, it's the most realistic portrayal. Emotion Yi's father's hand trembled. He picked up the wine and drank it in one gulp. His eyes were red. Brothers Hua, you've really said what's in my heart. Tell me, as parents, when can we stop worrying? Zhu Zhonglu let out a long sigh. His gaze was fixed on the wine in his cup as he softly said from the bottom of his heart, perhaps we will have to wait until the day we close our eyes, and then we won't have to worry anymore. As soon as he said this, the surrounding atmosphere suddenly became solemn. Immediately, the four elders let out a soft sigh and drank their wine in one gulp. The others also had their own thoughts. They lamented that they couldn't be filial in front of their parents. It was really unfilial. Compared to the two of you, the two of us can be said to have less to worry about. So Changlu smiled and said, Xiaoyan, this girl was brought back from outside. It was raining at the time, and the girl in the swaddling clothes was like a wet kitten. She was just 1 month old. Wu Yuding smiled and said, who would have thought that the wet kitten from back then would grow up to become a great beauty and even mesmerize my son? Such a good daughter was actually taken advantage of by that stinky brat of mine. Zhui Xiaoyan's eyes turned red. She was grateful and shy. She stomped her feet and twisted her waist as she pouted and said, Mom. Zhui Changlu also looked at his daughter dotingly and said, but now I, Zhui Changlu, not only have a son and a daughter, but also a good son-in-law. It's one less thing to worry about. Mo Xuani's parents were very envious. Looking at the pair of children, they were like pearls in the dew. Moreover, they were childhood sweethearts, grew up together, and knew each other very well. Wasn't that a good son and a good son-in-law? Their future happiness was already foreseeable. This situation was indeed very satisfying for the parents. They couldn't be more relieved that, as a human being, when he thought about himself, he couldn't help but think about his own worries. The difference in status between Xuani and the young master of the Yu family seemed to be too big. That what would happen if they spent the rest of their lives together in the future? The moment he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel 100 knots of worry in his heart. After a while, they said sincerely, I'm so envious of the two of you. Wu Yuding smiled and said, I think Xuani's. This chubby boy looks quite mature. Mo Xuani's mother didn't know why, but she suddenly felt uncomfortable. She couldn't help but hold Wu Yuding's hand and said helplessly, Sister-in-law, you don't know. This child is a good child, but his family doesn't match ours. His parents aren't very satisfied with our family. Wu Yuding frowned and said, what kind of family is this? How dare they be dissatisfied with our family? This child is from the prestigious Yu family in Shangjing. It's the family that Heavenly King Yu came from. Sigh, how can we, as commoners, be worthy of them? Bai Yunduo, who was standing at the side, watched as the topic went smoothly under the guidance of her master and mistress. She subconsciously held her forehead with her hand and hurriedly ate a mouthful of food to calm herself down. Brother Yu, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that your family's prejudice is too serious and too outdated. Plus, you've been arrogant for too many years. I really don't have any intention of gloating. The family that Heavenly King Yu came from. So what Changlu said thoughtfully. Then, it's indeed a little different from our family. Isn't that so? Wu Yuding pursed her lips. That's right. I thought it was some big family with great ambitions. So it's the Yu family. So Changlu frowned and said, how can such a small family be worthy of our daughter? And he's so insensible. Wu Yuding said, in-law, sister-in-law, you really have to think about this carefully. This child is a good child, but his family is too lowly. His taste is really bad. This concerns the child's marriage. You have to think about it carefully. You can't be bewitched with flowery words, Wu Yuding said gracefully. Xian Yi is so smart. She's like a fairy who has turned into a human being. How can she be betrothed to a poor family like the Yu clan? The two of you, your standards for choosing a son-in-law are too low, Wu Yuding said. Why don't we just forget about this marriage? So Changlu made the final decision. Chapter 1171. Then let's forget about it. Wu Yuding said, leave Xuani's marriage to me in the future. I'll definitely choose someone better than the Yu family. With just a few words, they let go. Mo Xuani was truly surprised by this change. She wanted to object, but found herself unable to say anything. Mo Xuani's parents felt the same. They deeply felt that the Zhua couple's words made a lot of sense. Right, how could a small family like the Yu family be worthy of their daughter? Although they vaguely felt that it was wrong of them to think this way, they still followed this train of thought that if there were any sensible people here, they would naturally be shocked. This, even if one's words were to enter one's heart and soul, it would at most be like this, right? With just a few words, everyone's thoughts followed suit. The wandering hero was dumbfounded. How did he just come here for a meal? And he had only eaten a few mouthfuls. And his wife was gone just like that? Where did this come from? How did things come to this point? Furthermore, he felt that what the other party said made a lot of sense. Everything was so logical and logical. It made too much sense that no, this was not right. The wandering hero mustered all his strength and stood up. He said in a low voice, Uncle, Auntie, why are you saying this? Our family. Don't talk about family. Choosing a partner is not the same as choosing a family. Besides, the Yu family is too low in our eyes. No matter what, it will affect our score. Wu Yuding comforted him. Little fatty, Annie can see that you're a good child. However, don't always think about climbing up the social ladder. It's not good for you. The wandering hero. You should be more practical. There are some people you can't climb up to. Zhua Changlu said. Zhua Xiaoduo and Zhua Xiaoyan tried their best to hold back their laughter. They were so hard that their stomachs hurt. Li Chenglong and the others were puzzled. They did not know what was going on. Was the Yu family low? Weren't they the #1 family in Shangjing? In fact, they might even be the first clan of astral souls. After all, the Yu clan did not only have Yu Dantian, Heavenly King Yu, but also the star-plucking monarch. No matter how one looked at it, it couldn't be said to be low. But why did Father Zhua and Mother's words sound so natural and reasonable? What's going on? Wasn't this too strange? The ranger was at a loss, confused and dumbfounded. He suddenly felt that his family was too small, too lowly, too insignificant that based on the serial impact of these ideas, his outlook on life, values, and worldview had suffered a devastating blow. Immediately, he felt a subtle sense of inferiority. He stood up with his head drooped and muttered, then go back. Go back, child. There are plenty of fish in the sea. There's no need to fall in love with a single flower. Not everyone can covet a flower on a high mountain. The ranger stood up in a daze. His face was full of disappointment. He didn't even know why he walked out of the house. Mo Xuani's heart ached. He wanted to chase after him, but he found that he couldn't move at all. At the table, everyone was still laughing and drinking. It was a lively scene. For a moment, he was in a daze. He pulled on Zhua Xiaoyan and asked nervously, Sister, what happened just now? No, did something happen? Zhua Xiaoyan widened her eyes in surprise. Mo Xuani frowned and pondered. He felt that he had overlooked something important, but he couldn't remember what it was. Bai Yunduo couldn't bear to see him like this. She sent a telepathic message to Wu Yuding. Master, don't you think you've gone a little overboard? Overboard? Wu Yuding glared at her. It's the Yu clan that has gone overboard. When did we go overboard? Did we say anything that wasn't the truth? Are we even going overboard when we say the truth now? Originally, Xian Yi was just the daughter of an ordinary family. They were very unwilling and pretentious. Now that they heard that she was our adopted daughter, they changed their attitude and came to flatter us. They even wanted to win the beauty's hand without us knowing and make it a de facto marriage. How despicable. Little fatty shouldn't have such thoughts. He's sincere to Miss Xian Yi. Didn't you hear what the Yu clan was doing just now? They were egging him on, and a bunch of old farts were teaching him how to pick up girls. This kind of thing. It's really disgusting. If our family's daughter can be coaxed so easily, where will your grandmaster's face go? These people in the Yu clan are too bold. This matter isn't over yet. If we don't teach you Xingqian and Yu Dantian a lesson, this matter won't end, Wu Yuting said domineeringly. Zhuo Changlu also said calmly through telepathy. The Yu clan's customs have become so stale. There has to be a change. This is also on account of our friendship. If we can't change it soon, this marriage won't be going through. Bai Yunduo coughed. She felt that she couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and said, Master, Grandmaster, I'll go out. To make a call. Wu Yuting rolled her eyes. Sit down. Bai Yunduo sat straight on the chair. What supervisor? What heavenly king? What almighty? They were all gone now. Wu Yuting thought for a while and sighed. She said telepathically, You silly girl, why can't you see your grandmaster's true intentions? If it's really a small matter like Xian Yi's marriage, would it be worth it for us to take action? The main thing is that the current Yu clan is in a mess. If we don't clean it up, I'm afraid that the Wang clan today will become the Yu clan in the future. Your grandmaster is only doing this for the sake of little Yu, and Xingqian. Do you really think that you don't care about the Yu clan anymore? Bai Yunduo was a little scared. She said, I'm just. Isn't it too unfair for Brother Xiaoyu to take the blame like this? Ha! If he didn't always let others take the blame for him, he wouldn't have to take the blame today. Wu Yuting lectured them through telepathy. You guys are not young anymore. You're still so foolishly loyal. That's not how you talk about loyalty. That's not how you make friends. If you encounter such things in the future, you should just take action without mercy. That's what true loyalty is, because you're stopping the decline of a clan. When a person reaches a high position and reaches an old age, he will naturally understand that the unfilial behavior of his descendants is what makes a hero the most helpless. Today, we discovered the signs of the decline of the Yu clan. If we don't stop it, where's the loyalty of friends? Bai Yunduo hesitated. But I'm afraid that our relationship will be a little strained. A relationship that can be strained is not a true friend. Since we're not true friends, then let's just fall out. What do you care? Wu Yuting said lightly, This kind of thing needs to be decisive. As long as you have a clear conscience, you can misunderstand if you want to, and thank me if you want to. If you're grateful to me, I'll accept it. If you fall out, I'll fall out with you. In this world, I only spoil my son. I don't spoil others. Bai Yunduo looked at Wu Yuting with some resentment. Spoiling my son? Not spoiling my disciple? Wu Yuting rolled her eyes and could only say, All right, I'll spoil you too. Bai Yunduo smiled contentedly. The banquet continued in a lively manner that Li Chenglong and the others quickly forgot about the strange incident. They had no recollection of it and had no idea what had happened. They only remembered that they had witnessed the oath of brotherhood between Zui Xiaoyan and Imo Xuani. That was all. The wandering hero walked out of the door in a daze. He suddenly felt that all the prosperity in this world no longer had anything to do with him. Young master, how is it? The guards who had been waiting outside naturally couldn't hear anything inside. Even if they used all their strength and stretched their ears, they still couldn't hear anything. It's over. My wife is gone. Our clan is too low class. How can we be worthy of her? We're not worthy, the wandering hero murmured. Our clan is too low class. We're not worthy? The guard could hardly believe their ears. They returned to the Yu clan. All the elders of the Yu clan were waiting for the news. Like a swarm of bees, they gathered in the hall, seeing that the wandering hero had returned at this time. They couldn't help but turn pale with fright. Why are you back so soon? Didn't you go to the banquet? At this time, the banquet should have just started, right? So early. What's wrong? You don't look right. What's wrong? Amidst the messy interrogations, Wah, the little fatty sat on the ground and started crying. He cried until the sky darkened and the earth darkened. He couldn't breathe as he cried and spoke. The marriage is over, sob sob. Xuani's adoptive father said that our clan isn't upright. We're not worthy. He said that our clan is too low. Small clan. We're not worthy of his daughter. He also said that we don't know anything and are trying to climb the social ladder. Sob sob. All the old men were like a group of ducks that had been struck by lightning. The clan isn't upright, not worthy, too low, small clan, trying to climb the social ladder that weren't. Weren't these the words that our clan said about Mo Schwani's clan? Not only did he return all of them, he even added a few more that we are the #1 clan in the Astral Souls continent. We are the clan of the heavenly kings and emperors. How can we be considered a small clan? Low. How low? How many clans are so low in the entire continent? These words were simply incomprehensible. However, no one in the entire U clan dared to refute when they thought about who had made these judgments. Moreover, no one dared to stand up and curse. This is pure nonsense. All the old men were like eggplants that had been hit by frost, deflated. The little fatty's grandfather tried his best to support him. He coaxed the dispirited little fatty back to his room to rest. The others gathered in the secret meeting room. The minister has spoken such words. It seems that the senior minister already knows about the previous matter. This is clearly a warning to our U clan. Sigh. This is bad. This is really bad. Chapter 1172. Which one of the people present wasn't a smart person? They've been tossing and turning in the sea of people all their lives. What couldn't they understand? He only needed to think about it for a moment before he completely understood the situation. No matter what, even if all the aristocratic families of the 3 continents were gathered and the U family was ranked first, they would at least be in the top 3. As the star-plucking monarch, the family of the heavenly king of the right, they had this confidence. This also led to the fact that the U clan couldn't be labeled as a small family, too low, too unpresentable, or climbing up the branches. But now, such a label had appeared. Moreover, the U clan couldn't afford to provoke or refute this person's evaluation. On one hand, this person was speaking the truth. Even if it was a little excessive, it was still the truth. On the other hand, this person was speaking the truth based on his strength. Even if it was excessive, there was nothing you could do. You could only open your eyes wide and listen. After all, the U clan was in the wrong first. Sigh. The old ancestor heaved a long sigh. Then, he regretfully said, Minister Chu is obviously dissatisfied with our U clan. If we had let nature take its course and didn't obstruct it, this wouldn't have happened. Not only would we have gained a reputation of being reasonable, but we would also have climbed up the towering tree. A man in Jianghu has no choice. A man in the imperial court is a human relationship. We don't want to break up a pair of lovebirds. But this is the way of the world. Perhaps Minister Chu is right. Our U clan is already stale. You tell me. Each and every one of you is pointing fingers at the marriage of the younger generation. Are you getting older and more immature? Why don't you think about when you were young? The old ancestor was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. The group of old men were being lectured submissively, but they were cursing in their hearts. Didn't everything start with you? Now you have the face to turn around and blame us. You are the root of everything, okay. But now, this matter had suddenly escalated to the point where the entire clan was in a state of panic. The minister was dissatisfied. This matter was very serious. Very serious. It was so serious that the U clan people in front of him couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with it. They didn't even dare to deal with it. This wasn't something they could deal with at their current level. What should we do now? This marriage is going to be ruined like this. Such a good thing. You're still thinking about marriage? I reckon that when this matter comes to an end, each and every one of us will be skin alive. That's secondary. My heart aches for this marriage. Such a good marriage is gone, just like that. Nothing else? Do you dare to say that you don't have it anymore? That wouldn't be a matter of peeling off a layer of skin. Do you really think that the minister wants to cancel it? This has nothing to do with the marriage. Then, I can't even think about it, and I can't say that I don't have it. What's the follow-up? What should we do in the future? If I knew what to do in the future, would I have to be so worried? Anyway, this matter is no longer something we can deal with. The old men sighed and lamented. They were so regretful that their intestines turned purple. There was a saying that went, if you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Now, I can only report this matter to the ancestor. This is an obvious matter. The minister has said so. So, it's obvious that he wants the old ancestor to rectify the family style. You don't need to say that. You're smart. If you're so smart, what were you doing earlier? Finally, the old ancestor sighed. That's what the minister meant. Can you all stop talking nonsense? The family looked at each other in dismay. They were all dejected and disheartened. Who would have thought that this was a good marriage that was bestowed by the heavens? Who would have thought that they would cause so much trouble because of their actions? Then, we can only let the heavenly king ancestor decide. But, who will tell the heavenly king? When it came to this issue, everyone's eyes averted. They were silent for a long time. Whoever said it would be the first unlucky person. There was no doubt about this. No matter what he said, he would not be able to escape from a round of scolding. Naturally, no one would be willing to touch this bad luck. After all, it was better to be punished together than to be scolded first. Everyone should be more open-minded. The crux of the problem now is the current style of our youth family. The minister's focus is also on this. It's not that he really looks down on our family. In this marriage, the two children know each other's hearts. How can the minister really break them up? The minister is only using this matter to warn our family. This point must be made clear to the old ancestor. If we take the initiative to speak, it means that we are taking the initiative to admit our mistakes. This attitude is necessary. If we don't even say it, then we are really dead. As for the follow-up of this matter, we are certainly not qualified enough. You mean to let the old ancestor go and lose face in person? I didn't say that. Then what do you mean? Everyone quarreled and pushed the blame to each other for a long time. However, this matter could not be pushed away in the end. They had to face it. They had to solve it. There had to be a follow-up. As for who would report to the heavenly king, it was naturally everyone's wish. The old ancestor of the Yu family was currently the most qualified. Who else could it be? Countless old men turned their heads and looked at the old ancestor who had everyone's wish. The old ancestor squeezed his phone. The muscles on his face twisted. How can I have so many juniors who push their elders to death? This is simply a group of bastards. Isn't it true that the minister said the Yu family style is not upright? It's really too improper. However, when it came to this, it had to be carried out. He immediately dialed the number that he regarded as a deity with trembling hands, and his face looked as if he had lost his parents. Beep. The call went through directly. Everyone shuddered and subconsciously turned their backs. Only their ears were perked up. They listened attentively to the sound of the phone, afraid that they would miss a word or two. Everyone was a cultivation expert who had entered the Tao. They could hear the sound of the phone clearly no matter how far away they were. However, on the surface, they all put on an expression that said, "I can't hear anything. This matter has nothing to do with me." The voice on the phone rang. A dignified voice came over. "What's the matter?" This voice was dignified and solemn. It was upright and plain-spoken. It adhered to principles and was serious in speech and manner. Yes, the old ancestor, the heavenly king of the right, had such an image. Old ancestor. It's me, Little Stone. The voice of the old ancestor of the Yu family, who was holding the phone, was trembling. His body instinctively bent down. "I'm at home now. Greetings, old ancestor." "Oh, Stone." The heavenly king's voice was very calm. There was a hint of kindness in the seriousness. "Why did you suddenly think of calling me? Did something happen at home?" "Yes, there's something. I need you to make a decision." The heavenly king's voice was deep and dignified. "Speak. What is it?" "It's like this. It's about the future head of the family. This hero Yu. It's about the important matter of Shrimp's marriage. There's a mistake." "Mistake?" The heavenly king's voice was a little strange. What mistake could there be in the marriage of a descendant of the Yu family? Could it be that some descendant of a family or a descendant of the royal family rushed up to fight for his favor? The heavenly king's voice was very calm and collected. After all, at this level, there were not many things that could not be solved in the entire 3 continents. There was no panic. The heavenly king did not panic at all. On the other side of the phone, the heavenly king's legs were crossed on the coffee table. The phone was between his neck and shoulder. His head was tilted, and he was still holding a deck of cards in his hand. In front of him was Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang. The three of them were playing Fight the Landlord. Life was very interesting. Nan Zhengxian's face had a little tortoise drawn on it. It was the Heavenly King's handwriting. This was naturally a coincidence. The three of them happened to be together. The Heavenly King came to play Fight the Landlord because he was bored. He also stipulated a fair bet. If Dongfang Zhengyang lost, he would have to contribute the 5,000-year-old wine that had been passed down in his family. As a farmer, he would lose 1 jar. As a landlord, he would lose 2 jars. If there was a bomb, the bet would be doubled. If Marshal Nan lost, he would draw a tortoise. If the Heavenly King lost, he would lose 100 star dollars. It was fair and just. Under the threat of the Heavenly King, Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang finally had to accept this so-called fair bet after being beaten up by the Heavenly King. Now, Dongfang Zhengyang had lost several rounds under the Heavenly King's exquisite card skills. There was nothing he could do about it. A straight of 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and a straight of 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.222, 8 was a small bomb. It could control everything. When he was a farmer, he was out of cards after playing 11 of the 17 cards. No one could withstand this kind of card skills. By now, he had already changed a few decks of cards. The two marshals were still happily playing cards with the Heavenly King. It seemed like they were very passionate about this sport. They were smiling on the outside, but cursing on the inside, that this motherfucker, Yu Dongtian, is not a human being. At this moment, the Heavenly King picked up the phone. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief. They looked around and exchanged glances. They were ready to leave. They had no choice but to leave. This Heavenly King of the right was too shameless. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang had 4 bombs in their hands. They even had the king bomb. This Heavenly King of the right actually threw away his cards and beat them up for an entire spring. What a jerk. He wants your wine, but he also wants me to draw a tortoise. This is not something a human can do. Nan Zhengxian said telepathically. Look at him. His feet are up in the air. He doesn't look like a Heavenly King at all. How can there be such a shameless person in this world? Dongfang Zhengyang was very angry. This guy comes to my house every day to ask for my wine. If he's not here to blackmail me, he's here to find me or to play cards like this. Instead of playing cards like this, why don't you just rob me? He's on the phone with his younger generation. Listen to his tone. What an upright and kind elder. We have to leave. Okay. The two of them exchanged glances and prepared to leave. However, the next moment, their ears perked up. Fuck, there's gossip. Big gossip. Chapter 1173. The voice on the other side of the phone was full of hope. Ancestor, it's like this. Shrimp was dating a girl from a commoner family. After the family considered the pros and cons, they felt that the two of them were not suitable for each other. The difference in status was too big, so they tried to stop them a few times. But Shrimp was a sentimental person and refused to do it. But he was just a junior. How could he make the decision? Yu Dongtian said solemnly. And then, suddenly, he felt sick of it. Young people falling in love. Why are you old things getting involved? I already told you not to be biased. But he still suppressed his temper and listened. What happened? And then, I recently found out that the commoner's daughter is an old friend of the minister's son, Xiaoduo, and they have a bit of a relationship. Yu Dongtian was stunned when he heard this. His eyes widened, and he almost blurted out a curse. Looking at the world today, among the 3 people he was most afraid of, the first was naturally Wu Yuding, the second was his father, Yu Xingqian, and the third was Xiaoduo. Of course, Xiaoduo was nothing. She was just a troublemaker. At most, she was quite a troublemaker. But her mother was very powerful, and she was also a super protective demon. Naturally, he was afraid of her. Let's put it this way. Was Zhuo Chonglu's the flood which strong? Yu Dongtian did not put them in the top 3 people he was afraid of. So how big of a threat did Yu Dongtian have to be in the top 3? He could not help but retract his feet from the tea table. She became a love rival with the minister's son? That's not good. No. Oh. The Heavenly King of the right heaved a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. Today, Mo, Xian Yi, that commoner girl, and Zhui Xiaoyan became sworn sisters. That's even better. Yu Tian was a bit smug. Didn't the Yu family and the Zhou family become in-laws? At least they were in-laws. They were even closer than before. Today, the minister and his wife held a family banquet. Family feast. Yu Tian couldn't help but shudder. He subconsciously touched his spatial ring. Invite Mo Xuani's family to a banquet, and officially announce that I've taken Mo Xuani as my adopted daughter. That's a good thing. You came here specifically to tell me this good news. It's worth it. Yu Dongtian's voice became more and more steady. He looked at Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang with disdain. These two fellows seemed to be trying to slip away. That won't do. I'm having a good time winning. Then the minister said that our small family wasn't worthy of his goddaughter. What? Yu Dongtian was stunned. He couldn't help but stand up. Right at this moment, Dongfang Zhengyang and Nan Zhengxian, who were about to slip away, suddenly stopped. They looked at each other and sat back down excitedly. Yu Dongtian, who had just heard the bad news, was stunned. He thought for a while before coming back to his senses. He covered the phone with one hand and glared at Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang fiercely. His other hand pointed outside. His meaning was clear: get out. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang shook their heads in unison. We're not going out. At the same time, they picked up their own cards on the table and frowned. Their meaning was clear. Aren't we playing card with you? Could it be that we can't afford to lose? Or are you going to run away after winning? Fuck you. Yu Dongtian threw his cards on the table and glared at them as if he wanted to eat them alive. Dongfang Zhengyang and Nan Zhengxian moved quickly and carefully put Yu Dongtian's card aside. They didn't want to mess up their own cards. Their meaning was clear. You continue. We'll continue playing after you're done. Yu Dongtian's breathing became heavy. These two shameless bastards. How dare they take advantage of the situation and hit him when he was down? However, the person on the other end of the phone didn't know what was going on and continued to say, the minister said that our family is too low, too ignorant. Our family is too small to be seen in public, and we are trying in vain to climb up the social ladder. So the marriage is canceled. What? Yu Dongtian shouted angrily. What are you doing? What the hell are you guys doing? The person on the other end of the phone was scared out of his wits. I think the minister found out that we didn't like the other party's family background. That's why this is happening today. Yu Dongtian couldn't care less about being angry with Dongfang Zhengyang and Nan Zhengxian. He shouted into the phone, the marriage of a child is about mutual consent. Why are you interfering? Aren't you the ones looking for a wife in the future? Family bias is all about family bias. Didn't you understand when you were looking for a wife? Now that you're old, you're muddle-headed? Isn't it shameful to do such a thing now? Isn't it shameful? The person on the other end of the phone was scolded and didn't say anything for a long time. After a long time, the person on the other end said timidly, we've discussed for a long time. It seems the minister doesn't really have the intention to cancel the marriage. But this matter, we can't say anything now. Of course you can't say anything. What right do you have to say anything? Yu Dongtian suddenly became furious. You can't say anything. So you're looking for me? That's the minister. How can I say anything? The girl is the goddaughter of the minister. Even I have to avoid her. What can I say? What can I say? Go find my father. No, go find the emperor. Go find my father. He has the right to speak. Then he hung up the phone. He neatly pushed the blame to the outside. Go find whoever you want. Anyway, I'm not going to take the blame. My father is old but strong. He can do it. You're right to find him. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang couldn't help but admire him. He was indeed the heavenly king of the right. Even at this point, he was still able to push the blame to the emperor. Speaking of which, they seem to have heard this saying for a long time. Now at this moment, such a living example appeared in front of them. It was really eye-opening. What did you hear? Yu Dongtian looked at the two of them fiercely. You didn't turn on the speaker. What can we hear? Nan Zhengxian grinned and laughed happily. Dongfang Zhengyang raised the card in his hand and said, let's continue to play landlord. We want revenge. I'll play your father. Revenge for your grandmother. Yu Dongtian was about to explode. He rolled up his sleeves and glared, ready to beat them up. I've always been the one enjoying the show. Today, I'm the one being watched. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang were ready to go all out. Even if they were beaten to death, they had to watch this gossip from the beginning to the end. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Just as Yu Dongtian was about to clear the area, his phone rang again. He picked it up and couldn't help but shudder. He immediately answered the call. Father. The Celestial Emperor called. The two of them were even more excited. The gossip had escalated. The Emperor's exasperated voice could be heard from the phone. Motherfucker, don't you dare call me father. I don't deserve that title. You're my father. You're my living father. Comfortable. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang heard this, and their faces were filled with satisfaction. Even if they only heard this sentence today, it was enough that even if they lost more, their lives were worth it. It was enough for them to reminisce about the rest of their lives. Yu Dongtian looked at the two of them awkwardly. He didn't dare to hang up the phone. He could only gesture with his hands and plead with his eyes. The two of them lowered their heads and pretended that they didn't see or hear anything. Do you think you can play landlord just because you want to? Do whatever you want to do? Now that there's an embarrassing incident, you want to chase them away? There's no such good thing in the world. Just then, the Emperor's roar sounded like it could topple mountains and overturn seas. You fucking dare to push the blame to me today? Ah, you're so capable. I raised you for so many years just to take the blame for you. How dare you say that? I didn't let you build a family back then because you wanted to build a you family. After you built it, you didn't care about it and pushed the blame to your son. Then you fucking pushed the blame down generation after generation. Now you realize that you can't push the blame down anymore? You're fucking pushing the blame up again. What else can you do? What else can you do? Yu Dongtian, you motherfucker, you've wasted all your years. When you were young, you pushed the blame to Yun Zhonghu. When you grew up, you still pushed the blame to Yun Zhonghu. In the end, you still pushed the blame to Yun Zhonghu. In the end, Yun Zhonghu found a wife and ran away. You fucking became capable too. You started to push the blame to the whole world. Look at how Dongfang Zhengyang was screwed over by you. Nan Zhengxian was even blacklisted by your Uncle Zhua. Push the blame everywhere. Push the blame everywhere. Your reputation as the king of pushing the blame to the right has finally been extended to your own father. Now you've even started to push the blame to your own father. Who else do you want to push the blame to in the future? The word push the blame was created for you, right, Yu Dongtian? Yu Dongtian was so embarrassed that his face darkened. He looked miserable. On the other side, Dongfang Zhengyang and Nan Zhengxian widened their eyes. Fuck, no wonder. I was pushed the blame to unknowingly by this guy. How did I do that? What did I do that again? Why didn't I know? You don't know what your uncles were meant? You don't know? Are you stupid? Is your brain made of tofu pudding with soy sauce? Do you need another deep-fried dough stick? Has your brain been eaten by a dog? This is obviously asking you to come out and clean up the family. What's the point of me coming out? Did I build a you family? Can you push the blame to me? You bastard. What has become of the Yu family? You still have the face to look at the Wang family? Let me tell you, Yu Dongtian, if you don't clean up, the Yu family will be the next Wang family. This is your uncle's was goddaughter. This is a lesson to you, and also a warning to you. If she's really a commoner, wouldn't she be bullied to death by those bastards of yours? If she's really bullied to death, when your uncle's was steps in, do you think you can still clean up the mess? You bastard. The Emperor was obviously furious. He scolded Yu Dongtian right to his face. To be honest, if he knew this kid was like this, he would have painted the wall with his face. Chapter 1174. The Heavenly King of the Right felt like he had been scolded to the point where he wanted to crawl into a hole. After a long while, he heard that his father was no longer angry. He said carefully, "Father, you can't blame me for this. You know that I have no respect in front of Uncle Zhua and Auntie Zhua. I thought that you were a person of virtue and prestige. Uncle Zhua and Auntie Zhua have always respected you. So the Emperor said angrily, My prestige is my business. That's my virtue and virtue. Is it for you to clean up your mess? However, his voice was still much gentler. The emperor was still very proud. After all, he was the only person who had the most respect in front of Zhuo Changchang. No one could compare to him in this aspect. Yu Dongtian heard that there was hope and hurriedly said, "So, this matter still depends on you." "I don't care," the emperor said. "I order you, immediately deal with this matter for me. Firstly, the marriage cannot be ruined. Secondly, your Uncle Zhuo and Annie Zhuo have to calm down. Thirdly, you have to think of a way yourself. If you can't do it, don't call me father anymore. I will call you father. You are my living father." Smack! The call was cut off. There is only one word to describe Yu Dongtian's face now, as if he had lost his parents. His entire being had sunk into a daze, and his bearing had changed. Ahem, it's not a big deal. It's just a small matter caused by the younger generation. Heavenly King of the Right, you don't have to take it to heart. When the time comes, I will go with you to settle it. Dongfang Zhengyang volunteered. "I will go too. In front of the minister, I still have some respect. I will definitely help you." Nan Zhengxian did not want to be left behind. Yu Dongtian snorted as he looked at the two fellows who were gloating over his misfortune and wanted to kick him when he was down. "How many years have I been? How can I not know what you two are trying to do? Help? Isn't it more of a hindrance? If I believe you two, I might as well kill myself with a piece of tofu. You two just want to watch the show and hit me when I'm down. It's just a small matter. There's no need to trouble the two of you." Yu Dongtian put on a stern face and said, "Dongfang, your army's defense is lax, and their morale is low. As the commander, you cannot absolve yourself from the blame. Hurry up and organize the defense. If there are any mistakes, I will report them to the minister. Nan Zhengxian, your southern army was riddled with holes in the last battle, and you still have the nerve to grin happily. Hurry up and go back to tidy up." Then he stretched out his hand. "You've lost a bet, so why aren't you giving it to me?" Dongfang Zhengyang's jaw almost dropped. How could you still remember this at a time like this? As expected of the heavenly king of the right, that Yu Dongtian collected his winnings and flew away. He was in a hurry and sighed all the way. Dongfang Zhengyang and Nan Zhengxian looked at each other. "I'm going back to organize the defense." Dongfang Zhengyang shook his head. "I'm going back too. Sigh, it's hard work." Nan Zhengxian also left. Half an hour later, on the way back to Shangjing, both of them felt that there was a fluctuation in the space. So they took a look. Nan Zhengxian smiled awkwardly. "What a coincidence." "Yes, what a coincidence." Dongfang Zhengyang was embarrassed. "Together? Okay. Together." Whoosh. Yu Dongtian's cultivation was at the peak of the heavenly king realm, and he could be called an outstanding talent of the heavenly king realm. His speed was extremely fast, and he tore through space to rush back. However, on the way back to the Yu family, the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. How could the Yu family have such a group of disappointing descendants? They despise the poor and love the rich. They set up a trap to cheat the minister. All of them were actually thinking of making the marriage a reality without Uncle Zhuo and Aunt Zhuo knowing about it. What a bunch of bastards. I don't even dare to do that. What a bunch of idiots. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Uncle Zhuo is taking advantage of the situation. It's obvious that he wants to mess with the Yu family. Just think about it. When Uncle Zhuo arrives in Shangjing, as long as he wants to hear or know something, even if you hide in a secret room, you won't be able to hide it from him. Furthermore, Uncle Zhuo and Annie Zhuo are wise people who have thought of thousands of things, but their ideas have come true. The adopted daughter of the heaven-inspecting minister has been so easily cooked by you guys. Then, what will happen next? He'll be furious. It's just a matter of waving his hand to wipe out a family. This kind of precedent is destined not to be set. If you guys are manipulating the girls of the higher-ups and make them in-laws, then won't the world be in chaos? I've raised a bunch of pigs. Do you think that normal worldly logic can suppress the top powerhouses of this world? Don't you know that in the bones of this world, the strong are respected? Or is it true that whoever has the biggest fist is the most reasonable? Yu Dongtian's head was about to explode. Fortunately, his speed was really fast. In just a few hundred breaths, he landed in the Yu family's courtyard with a soft schwa sound. Then, he walked in with big strides. However, the Heavenly King looked like a young man at this time. He walked in so boldly that the Yu family's guards didn't recognize him. Seeing a stranger suddenly appear in the Yu family's courtyard, how could they not shout, "Who is it? Stop! If you dare to act rashly again, kill without mercy." Before they finished speaking, they had already rushed forward. Their swords and spears were lined up, and their killing intent was soaring. Then, get lost. Everyone fell to the ground like a gourd. This was still Yu Dongtian's consideration of their duty. Otherwise, with his current mood, this group of guards would have been dead long ago. After turning the corner, a group of ancestors was already kneeling respectfully in front of the main entrance of the hall. "Welcome, Grand Ancestor." Yu Dongtian raised his hand and slapped, directly sending the old man at the front spinning 17 times. He said angrily, "I'm not your ancestor. You're my ancestor, living ancestor." Looking at the ancestor who was playing the role of spinning top in midair, the Yu family members trembled like cicadas in winter. "Get in here." Yu Dongtian waved his sleeves and strode into the main hall. After a while, the hall was filled with crackling sounds. "All of you, get lost to the front line. All of you are idle at home. Idle until you are an ancestor. Idle until you are a vulgar person. Why do you think the Yu family has the glory in front of you? Did you guys use politics, diplomacy, and those underhanded methods to trade for it? Is it because of your marriage alliance? I have been fighting for 10,000 years, and you have been enjoying the good fortune in the rear, lying down to win a life of victory. From today onwards, all the descendants of the Yu family must rely on their own abilities. Whether it's business, politics, or the army, everyone must rely on their own abilities to make a living. If anyone dares to rashly interfere with the family's relations, they will be expelled from the family immediately. From today onwards, the Yu family will be sealed and retired. We will no longer participate in the so-called ranking of the great families in Shangjing, and we will not participate in all the actions of dividing the cake in Shangjing. From today onwards, all the descendants of the Yu family who have reached the nascent soul stage and above must go to the front line to gain experience and fight for no less than 3 years. Regardless of gender, living is luck. Your future is fought for by yourself. It is your personal glory. If you die, it is your fate. You will be buried in the ancestral grave. You are worthy of being a descendant of the Yu family. From today onwards, the Yu family will no longer be involved in the political affairs of the astral souls. The door will be sealed, and the entire family will go into seclusion. If I hear that the Yu clan is causing trouble outside, causing trouble, oppressing men, oppressing women, and invading other people, before I come back to deal with it personally, if it hasn't been dealt with properly, I will kill all the people in charge of it. Look at the Wang family, and then look at you. Ask yourselves honestly, what difference is there between the Wang clan and the Wang clan with all the trouble you've caused? You are all proud to have a heavenly king in your family. Why? Do you all think that you are a heavenly king? Yu Dongtian's roar was not concealed at all. It almost shook half of Shangjing. It was as deafening as thunder. Kneel. All of you kneel. Kneel in front of the ancestral tablets and reflect on yourselves. Yu Dongtian suddenly became irritated. Bah, just kneel here. I'm not dead yet. What ancestral tablets do you all have? He said angrily. I have not been scolded by the emperor for more than 10,000 years. You unfilial descendants. You are my ancestors. A bunch of disgraces. If I had known that I would raise a bunch of you like this, I would have. Before his voice died away, Yu Dongtian had already left and disappeared without a trace. This matter was purely to teach his own family a lesson. It was not over yet. In fact, this was only the beginning and the easiest part to solve. On the other hand, the Zhou family's banquet was still going on. After the wandering hero left, the atmosphere suddenly changed and became more lively. Zhou Changlu's eloquence was excellent. He controlled the situation from the beginning to the end. He did not speak too fast, but he did not speak too slowly from beginning to end. The meal revealed a relaxed and lively atmosphere. Continuous laughter was a common occurrence, and from time to time, the entire hall would roar with laughter. Everyone was enjoying themselves. Wu Yuding dissolved 2 elixirs in the wine for Mu Songjun and his wife. She urged them to drink and let them consume the elixirs. They naturally digested the elixirs. Everything was done quietly. Zwi Chonglu was talking to Mu Songjun about how it felt to be a father. The two of them laughed heartily from time to time, and sometimes sighed together. No matter if it was a divine transcendence expert or an ordinary citizen, they all felt the same when it came to becoming a father. Occasionally, they would tell Zhuo Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong that the martial world was dangerous. They had to be careful and not think too highly of themselves. As they drank one cup after another, time passed unknowingly. However, the atmosphere was too joyous and harmonious. Everyone was reluctant to let this meal end too quickly. Only Bai Yunduo understood this in her heart. Master and mistress were waiting for someone. They wanted to prolong the banquet. If there was anyone in the Yu family who was not stupid, Yu Dongtian would definitely come tonight. After tonight, things would get out of hand. At this moment, dong dong dong, someone knocked on the door. The sound was rhythmic, neither fast nor slow. I'll go open the door. Bai Yunduo stood up immediately. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding rolled their eyes secretly. Go ahead. If you want to inform us in advance, you'll be disappointed to death. Bai Yunduo opened the door. When she saw the 2 people in front of her, she was stunned. Why? Why are you here? Chapter 1175. Outside the door, Dongfang Jingyang and Nan Zhengxian were standing in front of Bai Yunduo. Bai Yunduo was shocked. We came to Shangjing for business. We knew you were here, so we came to see you. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Jingyang were confused. They did not expect Bai Yunduo to be here as well. Their cultivation was much weaker than Yu Dongtian. Logically speaking, it should have been impossible for them to walk in front of Yu Dongtian. However, Yu Dongtian needed to go back home to deal with some family matters. This gave them a chance. As long as they came to Zhuo Chonglu, they would not miss this drama of the century. Waiting for the hare to appear by a tree stump was not necessarily a derogatory term. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Jingyang would have run as far as they could when they heard about the Zhuo family's banquet earlier. In fact, they were not the only ones. Anyone who had experienced the Zhuo family's banquet would see it as a den of tigers and wolves, a forest of swords and spears. They would not be able to leave without being severely injured. However, this time, the 2 of them took the initiative to come to Zhuo Chonglu. Both of them made up their minds. As long as they could see the drama of the century and see Zhuo Chonglu's downfall, they would accept it even if they had to go bankrupt because of this banquet. It was Yu Dongtian's fault for being such a bully. If they missed out on this gossip, they would truly die with everlasting regret. Especially here, with the support of the minister, they could watch the drama without worrying about Zhuo Chonglu's revenge. As for the future, if you dare to cause trouble in my army, I will mobilize the army to encircle you. So what if you are the heavenly king of the right? I am the general of an army. Let's see if you are willing to do it. You. What a coincidence. Bai Yunduo could not help but wipe the sweat off her forehead. Is boss here? Nan Zhengxian stuck his head out. Come in. We are eating. Bai Yunduo sighed. Just in time. We've been hungry for a long time. Help me get 2 more pairs of chopsticks. The 2 of them didn't stand on ceremony and squeezed through the door. Bai Yunduo sincerely expressed that she had never seen Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Jingyang so bold. Today, he was really bold. Not only was he able to tell with a single glance that they were unwilling to leave, he even dared to order him to add 2 more pairs of chopsticks. You 2 are ordering me around? But this matter was a little strange. Yu Dongtian wouldn't go so far as to tell everyone about this, right? But how did these 2 know? He must have known about it. Otherwise, why would he deliberately come to the Zhuo family's banquet? This was really strange. As the 2 of them walked in, Li Chenglong and the others instinctively turned to look. At the entrance, Two big men walked in valiantly and spiritedly. The two of them were about the same size. Both of them were about 2 meters tall. When they walked in, they were like two majestic mountains. Both of them were dressed casually. Even though they were wearing ties, it was difficult to hide their squarish nature. When they walked, it was as if thousands of horses and thousands of soldiers were marching at the same time. They were majestic and awe-inspiring. Not only were the others surprised, even Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuting were surprised. "Why are you two here?" "That's because I miss you, boss, and we are on business." The two of them smiled honestly. Dongfang Xingyang was a little reserved, and Nan Zhengxian was a little embarrassed. The two of them scratched their heads at the same time. One of them used his left hand, and the other used his right hand. Wu Yuting looked at the two of them with a half-smile. "Business? You two just happen to be together?" Yes. What a coincidence." The two of them smiled at the same time. Wu Yuting rolled her eyes and said, "Have you eaten?" "Not yet." The two of them said at the same time. Their words were not polite at all. If they said that they had eaten, they would be met with a "then you can leave." "We haven't finished eating yet." "What should they do?" Wu Yuting frowned. "Why haven't you eaten yet? It's already so late. Why don't you go home and eat? What if you're starving? You're a small official. Why don't you take care of yourself? Go home." The two of them looked at the table full of dishes in confusion. There are so many people and only this table full of dishes. The two of you are so greedy. The food we prepared is not enough to fill your stomachs. The two of them were stunned. "Sister-in-law, you don't follow the rules, do you? We are prepared to spend the rest of our lives and go bankrupt just to freeload a meal from you. You want to send us away as soon as we see you? What kind of logic is this?" Just when they were at their wits' end on the other side, Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan cheered at the same time. "Uncle Nan, it's Uncle Nan." The two of them did not forget that this Uncle Nan was really a good person. The most valuable gift they had ever received in their life was from Uncle Nan. To Nan Zhengxian, calling him Uncle Nan was like a blessing from the heavens. Nan Zhengxian smiled happily. "Ah, isn't this Xiao Duo and little Niena? Uncle Nan hasn't seen you for a long time. Let me see. Xiao Duo is so tall, and little Niena is getting prettier." Nan Zhengxian, who finally had a way out, walked over with a face full of kindness. Looking at Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan, he felt very happy. Nan Zhengxian ignored Dongfang Xingyang's pleading look. "As long as I can stay, I will be fine. As for you, figure out yourself. I won't say much anyway. Or you can leave." It was better to enjoy it together than to enjoy it alone. That was nonsense. If one could enjoy such a great play of the century alone, why share it with others? "Boss." Dongfang Xingyang walked in, rubbing his nose. "Are you eating? It smells so good. I've heard that the Zhuo family's banquet is very sumptuous." Wu Yuting said coldly. "If you're not eating, what are you doing? Holding a banquet to worship the heavens? What? Do you only have eyes for your boss? Is there anyone else?" Dongfang Xingyang smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, you treat me like your own parents. All these years, I have been thinking about how I should repay you. Look, I tried my best to get you something that you might not like, but you have to accept it for me. Please don't mind it." He took out a purple-red infinite space ring. Wu Yuting took the ring and opened it on the spot to take a look. She said, "Aya, you came all the way here. Your boss and I don't like a pair of chopsticks. Hurry and sit down. You came at the right time. Our family has a happy occasion today. You can join in the joy." "Ah, thank you, sister-in-law." Dongfang Xingyang was sweating, especially when I saw Wu Yuting actually open the ring on the spot to check. I rejoiced in my heart. Fortunately, I had prepared. Fortunately, I had brought all my belongings with me. Otherwise, I would have been kicked out of the house. Nan Zhengxian laughed and took out the infinite space ring. "Sister-in-law, you're getting more and more beautiful. Give me a pair of chopsticks, too." He looked at Dongfang Xingyang as if he was looking at a lowly person. With Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan calling him Uncle Nan, Nan Zhengxian felt that his status was above Dongfang Xingyang's. "We're a family. You, little Dongfang, are an outsider. How could Dongfang Xingyang not be touched?" He had already cursed Nan Zhengqian's ancestors. Of course, he recognized Zhou Xiaoduo, that peerless prodigy, but he would never have thought that this kid was the son of the minister. Nan Zhengqian, this bastard, actually hid such an important piece of news for so long. This son of a bitch is not human. If I had known earlier, I would rather bang my head against the wall and die if I couldn't get a warm Uncle Dongfang. I heard that Nan Zhengqian liked to keep everything to himself. Now that I've seen it for myself, the rumors are true. After today, I'll settle the score with you. Isn't it just trying to get close? Laozi's aura gazing technique is the best in this generation. I heard that Zhou Xiaoduo inherited the aura gazing technique from the previous principal of Phoenix City's second high school, He Yuanyue. But he's still young, so his attainments are bound to be shallow. Wait until Laozi gives him a stepping stone. Then he'll definitely replace Nan Zhengqian's position. Dongfang is destined to surpass Nan Zhengqian. Mo Xuanyi's family was a little cautious when they saw the arrival of strangers. Zhou Changlu introduced them enthusiastically. These are my two brothers. One is surnamed Dong, the other is surnamed Nan. My surname is Dong. Dongfang Zhengyang said. My surname is Nan. Nan Zhengqian said. Nice to meet you, in-laws. The two of them were not stingy people. They handed out gifts to everyone. Mo Xuanyi's family, Li Chenglong, and the rest received 2 sets each. Then Bai Yunduo came over with 2 pairs of chopsticks and slammed them on the table. He rolled his eyes and said, "You too, do you want a drink?" Of course, of course. Thank you so much. The two wiped their sweat. They almost forgot that this was the wife of the heavenly king, thus, they added 2 more wine glasses. 2 interspatial rings were placed in by Yunduo's hands. White Cloud withdrew without the slightest trace of smoke and fire. Master said 2 more pairs of chopsticks, but he didn't say anything about drinking. You two want a drink? Haha, do you think that I, the wife of the king of Zwalu, the #1 inspector of the continent, and the #1 inspector of the army, am a maid? I gave you chopsticks and wine glasses. If you don't have these 2 rings today, I'll discipline your entire army tomorrow. As the inheritor of Wu Yuding's legacy, the way she received gifts was naturally the same. Everything was done smoothly and without a trace. If Zhou Xiaoduo saw this scene, he would definitely sigh. This was the true meaning of plucking the feathers of a swallow. My cultivation is still not up to par. When Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xianyan brought 2 large chairs over for the two to sit down, the 2 of them finally heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, they sat down. There were seats, chopsticks, and wine glasses. It was enough. Why would they need a plate? It didn't need anything else. It was too expensive. Compared to the Mo family, Li Chenglong and the rest became more reserved with the arrival of the 2. The 2 of them came with their original faces. Nan Zhengqian might be a little unfamiliar to them, but Dongfang Zhengyang had been to the Hidden Dragon High School before. Furthermore, they had met each other during the Starlight Mountain Range trial. This was clearly Commander Dongfang. But Commander Dongfang was actually Zhu's father's old subordinate? Brother? Then who was Zhu's father? Chapter 1176. Thinking of this, the hearts of all the little fellows began to beat like drums. Ever since they realized that something was wrong, they could feel that something was wrong. Take this table, for example. During this period of time, they had eaten many times. With 10 or so people sitting at this table, it was extremely crowded. However, everyone liked to eat quickly, so they didn't feel that it was too uncomfortable. However, today, there were 21 people at this table. Everyone was moving calmly, and there was no sense of crowding at all. This was very abnormal. From what they could see, it was one thing to not feel crowded when everyone sat in a circle. However, there was no gap at all. Now, there were 2 burly men sitting on the chairs. They were moving calmly, and there was no sense of crowding at all. This was rather thought-provoking. Just now, both the guests and the host were enjoying themselves. Now, the atmosphere was even livelier. Nan Zhengqian and Dongfang Zhengyang were both experienced with alcohol. They knew how to liven up the atmosphere of the banquet. Compared to Zhu Zhonglu, they were not inferior at all. Furthermore, They entertained the guests and made the atmosphere of the banquet more and more lively. Dongfang Xingyang and Nan Zhengqian were drinking and chatting. Their hands were not idle either. They took out their phones and took a few selfies with their heads tilted towards Zhuo Changlu and his wife. This must be posted on their WeChat moments. Both of their pictures were the same. There were only 3 people in the pictures: himself, his brother, and his sister-in-law. His brother was elegant and steady. His sister-in-law was smiling kindly. His face was glowing. Then, he quickly took a picture of the dishes on the table. He especially slapped the wine glass in his hand and the fragrant chive pancakes at the side. As he spoke to everyone at the table, he quickly added a caption: Dongfang Xingyang. The rarest thing in life is the reunion of brothers. Today I have gathered with big brother and sister-in-law. Life is like a dream, and time flies by quickly. I can't help but sigh. A table of delicious dishes, smile, smile. I finally got to eat the chive pancake that sister-in-law made herself. I wish big brother and sister-in-law a long and healthy life. May our friendship last forever. All in one go. Send. She put her phone away, her face full of joy and grace. She ate, chatted, and drank. Nanjing Qian, time flies. It's been 2 years since the last time I had a meal with big brother and sister-in-law. Today, we're finally able to gather again. 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. The chive pancakes that I ate last time still have a lingering fragrance in my mouth. This time, sister-in-law gave me a stack of smug emoji, smug emoji. Look, there's too much, I can't finish it. But since sister-in-law made it, I'll eat smug emoji, even if I can't finish them. Emoji of a dog's head, emoji of a dog's head. Wishing big brother and sister-in-law eternal youth. Smile, smile, send. He pocketed his phone. Be dignified, eat, chat, and drink. The atmosphere was lively. Although Li Chenglong and the others were cautious, the current atmosphere was too warm and warm. Coupled with the humorous conversation of the elders, the nervousness in their hearts gradually disappeared. They were no longer nervous. Little did they know that Nan Zhengqian and Dongfang Xingyang's hearts were also in turmoil. Especially when Zhuo Xiaoduo introduced his friends. The 2 marshals were even more shocked. These are my classmates. Uncles, this is Li Chenglong. Haha, his cultivation aptitude is relatively average. The only thing that can be said about him is that he's the best military advisor of the generation. His current cultivation state is mediocre. He's already 20 years old this year, but he's only at the peak of the Guoxian realm. He can't suppress the agitation of his vital energy after suppressing it for 17 or 18 times. He's about to break through to the heavenly realm. This is Long Yuxing. His cultivation progress is about the same as Li Chenglong's. However, Li Chenglong is a little clever. He doesn't even have that little bit of intelligence. If it wasn't for the fact that he received the inheritance of the green dragon, he wouldn't be able to make it. So Xiaoduo introduced them one by one. The words he used were full of praise and criticism, and so on. But when the 2 marshals heard it, they only felt that today was an eye-opener. This big group, what's going on? Each and every one of them was showing off their abilities, showing off their brilliance without the slightest bit of concealment. What do they mean by peak of the Guoxian realm at 20 years old? What do they mean by they can't suppress it after suppressing it for 17 or 18 times and are about to break through to the heavenly realm? The 2 of them looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo as they drank. You're really your father's son. The word talent is really well used. So many prodigies of this generation gathered at the same table. It was really too shocking. The 2 marshals' eyes lit up as they watched. They couldn't wait to take all of them into their pockets and take them under their command. These little fellows only needed to train under their hands for 2 years, and they would definitely become the seeds of future marshals and heavenly kings. It wasn't impossible for them to be even a level higher than that. At the very least, when they were at this age, they didn't have such achievements. In fact, they were far from it. Let's not talk about suppression. When they were at this age, they were only at the heavenly realm. They were even called the greatest prodigy, not to mention the fact that they had a military advisor, a natural assassin, and the successor of the Green Dragon. a military advisor. What the hell? Nan Zhengxian dug his fingernails into his palms. I'm not jealous. I don't want to poach them. Dongfang Xingyang couldn't help but ask, Boss, are these kids interested in joining the army? The East Army is in a state of decline. So Changlu didn't say anything. Wu Yuting chuckled and asked, Are you full? You're even in the mood to chat? No. Dongfang Xingyang was shocked. He quickly raised his wine glass and said, Let me toast to you, sister-in-law. I'm a woman. I can't hold my liquor. I don't mean for you to drink. I'll toast 3 glasses to show my respect. The topic was brought to an end. Dongfang Xingyang's face darkened. Sister-in-law kept smiling. What was she trying to do? Nan Zhengxian looked at him from the corner of his eyes. He couldn't help but gloat. What an idiot. These are all Xiao Duo subordinates. You want to poach them? And you want to poach them right in front of them. I'm willing to give you the highest honor among the 4 great generals. Dongfang Xingyang took a sip of wine to calm himself down. He coughed lightly and took out his vibrating phone. His eyes widened and he smiled proudly. His life was complete. Nan Zhengxian also took out his vibrating phone at the same time and opened his friend's circle. After taking a look, he smiled proudly. His life was at its peak. Below, there was a whole circle of replies. I'm Shimin. Fuck. Where's this? Where are you? Send me your address. Please, I beg you. Bagong. I'm so jealous that others. Bring me along. I beg you. You didn't invite me for dinner. The legendary chive pancake. I'm not sour at all. I'll eat it sooner or later. Is the chive pancake tasty? Bring me one. Is it good? Guess if I'm sour or not. Nan Zhengxian. Can you be any more cocky? Then, they formed a formation below. Fucking Nan Zhengxian. Fucking Dongfang Xingyang. Fucking Nan Zhengxian. Rows and rows of replies lined up below. There was still more to come, and there was an endless stream of replies. Dongfang Xingyang and Nan Zhengxian were so happy that their eyes narrowed. Their friend's circle had never been so lively. Let these guys be envious. Just as they were feeling smug, the wind suddenly howled in the sky. A strong gust of wind came with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The highlight of the show was here. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Xingyang's expressions turned serious. They sat up straight. Zhu Zhonglu and Wu Yuting's eyes flashed with gratification. Knock. Someone knocked on the door again. Bai Yun Duo turned to look at Wu Yuting. Let's not bother 2 people. Go and open the door, Wu Yuting said. Bai Yun Duo stood up and went to open the door. She opened the door. It's not you, Dong Tian. He stood in front of the door angrily. He was stunned when he saw Bai Yun Duo. Why are you here? Bai Yun Duo was unhappy when she heard that. Why? Are you worried that I'll find out about your scandal? She said with a straight face. Nonsense. I've been with Xiao Ninji all this time. This is Xiao Ninji's house. If I'm not here, where am I? Where should I be? Yu Dongtian's face was serious. He put on the airs of a big brother and said, Oh, then you can go out for a walk. I have something to discuss with Uncle Zhua and Aunt Zhua. It's not convenient for you to be here. Bai Yin Duo was furious. It's not convenient for me to be here? This bastard. Is this something a human should do or say? She gritted her teeth and said, I shouldn't have pleaded for you. She really regretted it. If she had known that this bastard would say such nonsense, she wouldn't have pleaded for him. The other party's meaning was very clear. If she didn't know, he would have tricked her into leaving and never let her know what happened today. It was better to be known than seen. It was really that Yu Dongtian was stunned when he heard that. He was a smart person and instantly understood that Bai Yun Duo couldn't have just arrived. She knew everything that happened in front of her. He couldn't avoid her. He couldn't help but say, Sister-in-law, what you said about me is really embarrassing. Sigh, the family is unfortunate. I had no choice but to do this. Bai Yun Duo said coldly, What good or bad plan? You don't have to tell me about these things. Do you have the right to tell me? Yu Dongtian hurriedly said, Uncle Zhua and Annie's didn't say anything, right? However, Bai Yun Duo had already turned around and left. Originally, she thought that this guy was her husband's best friend, so she made up her mind to give him a few reminders out of goodwill. But now, Kiki, I want to see how badly Yu Dongtian will die today. I'll take it as a joke. The moment he entered, Heavenly King Yu saw Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang, both of whom were sitting upright and looking dignified. He was so angry that his nose was crooked. There was no need to say anything. These two bastards must have rushed here to watch the show. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhengyang had already stood up. Dongfang Zhengyang smiled from ear to ear. Heavenly King Yu, nice to meet you. What a coincidence. Nan Zhengxian was stunned. It's really such a coincidence to meet Heavenly King Yu. Even I'm shocked. Really? Chapter 1177. It's a pleasure to meet you, two bastards. Yu Dongtian said disdainfully. It's a pleasure to meet you. Wu Yuding snorted and said, Heavenly King Yu, why do you look so pale? Did someone make you angry? Auntie, Yu Dongtian's spirit was instantly rejuvenated. He said sweetly, Auntie, I've missed you so much these few days. I've finally met you. I've told you before that I'm indebted to Auntie. You treat me better than my own mother. I must be filial to Auntie in the future. And my uncles were, Annie's were, from the start to the end, it's all my family's fault. I've already severely punished that bunch of useless people. Those rascals, after enjoying a few days of peace, they thought too highly of themselves. They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Father and I have been risking our lives outside, but we actually allowed such vermin to appear in our family. What's more, they were born in groups. It's really a huge sin. This time, it's all thanks to Uncle Zwa and Auntie Zwa. They helped us discover the hidden danger and cleaned up our family. It's really a huge debt of gratitude. If not for Uncle Zwa and Auntie Zwa, would our you family still be around? We would only become a decadent family that deceives the world. Just thinking about what those rascals did really infuriates me. Look at the Wong family now. It's so shocking and heartbreaking. If these people from a Yu family continue to do whatever they want, they will become the second Wong family. It's really too scary. It's so heartbreaking. I just found out about this too. I immediately rushed back to give them a scolding. I even came up with new family rules. The first is, the second is, the third is. I've already severely punished everyone involved. They are. I'm not only here to represent myself, but also my father to thank Uncle Zwa and Aunt Zwa. Originally, my father wanted to come personally, but both of you know that my father is thin-skinned. Before I came, he kindly reminded me that Uncle Zwa and Aunt Zwa have done our family a great favor this time. If it weren't for the friendship of a lifetime, who would come and meddle in other people's affairs? Uncle Zwa and Aunt Zwa are righteous and don't treat us as outsiders. That's why they're willing to help us and set things right. Uncle Zwa, Aunt Zwa, thank you so much. Yu Dongtian's mouth was like a heavy machine gun that suddenly released the safety and pulled the trigger. Hundreds of shuttles were fired in a row. This time, it was really an emergency. I came in a hurry. I didn't make any preparations. Yu Dongtian took out a space ring and stuffed it into Wu Yuding's hand. It's nothing valuable. It's just some beauty products. Auntie, you won't be able to use them, so please don't dislike them. Also, I got some wine for Uncle Zwa. They've been preserved for thousands of years. The quality is not bad. General Dongfang wanted to mutter, damn, that wine belongs to my family. It has been stored in the cellar for more than thousands of years. However, seeing Yu Dongtian's current appearance, he didn't dare to say it. He definitely didn't sympathize with him. This guy's mouth was wider than anyone else's. There was nothing worth sympathizing with. He was mainly afraid that this guy would settle accounts with him later. It was worth the ticket price to see this big show. In addition, I've also prepared some for Xiao Duo and Little Ninian. As Yu Dongtian spoke, he looked at Zhuo Chonglu's expression. Seeing that Zhuo Chonglu's expression didn't change, the heavenly king of the right's face became paler and paler at the speed of his speech, which was originally like a machine gun, gradually slowed down. Towards the end, he was almost stuttering. Yu Dongtian knew the Zhuo couple very well. Zhuo Zhonglu was the one who had to make the final decision for all the major events in the Zhuo family. Wu Yuding was the one who had the final say in the Zhuo family. Although there had been no major events in the Zhuo family for a long time, Zhuo Zhonglu was the one who had the final say in the family. Just like at this moment, Yu Dongtian knew that even if he persuaded Wei Yuding, he still couldn't persuade Zhuo Chonglu. It was still futile, Zhuo Chonglu said lightly. I asked you to come here to give me a gift? Do you think that your Aunt Zhuo and I are really greedy for your things? No, no, no. I definitely didn't mean that. I've always been filial to Uncle Zhuo and Aunt Zhuo. I can't wait to be with them. Yu Dongtian looked at Bai Yunduo pleadingly. Sister-in-law, please help me. Bai Yunduo was still angry. She snorted and turned her head away. She didn't even bother to pretend that she didn't see it. You offended a woman, and you still want her to help you? Is there such a good thing in the world? The Yu family is really powerful now. Not only is it the first family in Shangjing, but it's also the first family in Astral Souls. It's one of the top families in the 3 continents. But look at what the Yu family has become. Originally, I just wanted to see how this matter would be resolved. A small punishment would be enough as a warning. However, after my divine sense circled around a Yu clan, I discovered that such a large clan like yours is now as rotten as the Wang clan. When you see an ordinary family, you trample over it directly. When you see a family that's stronger than you, you urge your children to have sex with them. Is this the style of the Yu family? What's more, in the last 1,000 years, when the upper class of Shangjing was distributing benefits, the Yu family alone took up 20% of the share. You're in a high position and have more power than me. You should know better than me what a family that takes up 20% of the benefits and resources in Shangjing represents and what it means. Yu Dongtian and your father may have the right to take the 20%. But ask yourself, can you do it? Do you feel that you are taking more than you deserve? And now, the situation is that the descendants of your family have already taken up 20% of the share. What right do they have? Just because their ancestor is an emperor? Is he the king of the right? How ridiculous! How ridiculous! How ridiculous! What kind of madness is this? The Yu family is the Yu family. What is a king of the family? According to what you said, if Xiao Duo and Xiao Nian get married in the future, are they going to establish a king's family? At that time, will the Yu family work together to ensure that the glory of the so-called number 1 family doesn't fall? Will the Yu family fight against Xiao Duo and Xiao Nian, or even kill them to prevent future troubles? Please don't tell me that I'm overthinking, that I'm worrying too much, that I'm being whimsical. Cold sweat dripped down Yu Dongtian's face. These words were really hurtful. No matter how he answered, it was wrong. But one thing was for sure, and that was Uncle Zhuo and Aunt Zhuo would never let Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaonian establish a family. Since they had children, they had been hiding it, afraid that others would find out. How could they establish a family? Uncle Zhuo. Yu Dongtian looked at Zhuo Chonglu pleadingly, but he was met with Zhuo Chonglu's cold eyes. Dongfang Xinyan coughed and bowed. Boss, the king of the right, knows his mistake, and his attitude is already. Boss, do you think? Nan Zhengxian also bowed and said, Boss, after this punishment, as long as the descendants don't overturn the king's decision, there won't be any problems for at least 3,000 years. Plus, after 10,000 years, the descendants will be unfilial. This is something that no family can avoid, even gods. I'm afraid. After all, people's hearts. Zhuo Chonglu sighed softly. You know what I'm thinking. Normally, I wouldn't say it so seriously, and I wouldn't want to say it so seriously. But Wang Feihong was my brother back then. Oh, Wang family, we can only watch helplessly as we reach this step. How can we not learn from the mistakes of our predecessors? What can we do? What a shocking sight. Now, the Yu family is also showing signs of this. Even the families that you two come from might not have the same signs as well. We fought bloody battles to conquer the world. If we finally found out that the astral soul's land that we risked our lives to protect for so many years was destroyed by our own descendants, even if we did ascend the altar, how could we accept the worship of the people for so many years? We have been fighting for our entire lives. Our original intention is to see the beauty of this world. We can kill anyone who destroys society, but I do not wish that when you raise your butcher's knife one day, it will be our own descendants who are under the knife. This kind of heart-wrenching pain, this kind of ridiculous disappointment, you can't bear it. Even if you've never seen the descendant being killed, he's still your descendant. You will always remember that his surname is you. Yu Dongtian's surname is you. Yu Xingqian's surname is you. Zhuo Changlu's voice wasn't very strict, but Yu Dongtian, Dongfang Xingyang, Nanzheng Xian, and Bai Yunduo all stood up straight and listened seriously. These were undoubtedly words that came from the bottom of his heart, and were definitely not spoken with emotion. Mu Songjun, Mo Xuani, Zhuo Xiaoduo, Li Chenglong, and the others who were at the same table couldn't see or hear anything. Speaking of Wang Feihong, Zhuo Zhonglu felt a little upset. Back then, Heavenly King Gu Hong had single-handedly slaughtered the Second Sorcerer Alliance, and the smile he had given Zhuo Zhonglu before the battle, that Yu Dongtian and the others were from that time as well. Even though they were just small shrimps back then, how could they not remember Heavenly King Gu Hong's heroic deeds? Looking at the Wang family now, looking at their own family, they all broke out in cold sweat. After a long time, Zhuo Xiaoduo finally saw Yu Dongtian sitting down with a warm expression. He raised his wine glass and toasted Mu Songjun and his wife. With a smile, he said, "I'm little hero Yu's guardian." Yes, there are many people in the Yu family, so the seniority is a little messy. I look young, but my seniority is slightly higher. Cough, cough. Zhuo Changlu rolled his eyes at the sky. Wu Yuting looked at him from the corner of her eyes. Seniority? Oh, you're really senior. Who knows how many generations of your descendants are going to marry my goddaughter? Do we have to call you our ancestor? But Yu Dongtian couldn't do anything about it. He really couldn't do anything about it. Let's talk about our own matters. Let's talk about our own matters. Yu Dongtian's neck was getting thick as he struggled to speak. Ah! Nanzheng Xian burst out laughing. Chapter 1178. Of course, everyone was happy at the end of the meal. Yu Dongtian's arrival was already the greatest sincerity in redeeming the family. He had dealt with the entire Yu clan's upper echelons. This was a big change of blood for Mo Xuani's family, and also beneficial for the Yu clan itself. It was just a temporary turmoil, but it would be repaid in the future. Yu Dongtian was well aware of this, so he did not hold any grudges against him. Instead, he had to thank the Zhuo couple for stepping in. But the marriage between Mo Xuani and Yu Xiaoxia was still not decided on the spot. Yu Dongtian came to express his apology and gratitude. With his status, it was impossible for him to get involved in the marriage. Of course, the most important thing was that he didn't dare to do so, and he wasn't qualified enough. Mo Xuani had become Zhuo Changlu's adopted daughter, and in terms of seniority, she was of the same generation as Yu Dongtian. How could he be qualified to preside over the marriage? Although he knew that Zhuo Changlu would not follow through with this marriage, and at most, when Mo Xuani got married, he would give a gift and a dowry. But his willingness to step in this time had already explained a lot of things, and even more so, it had an inexplicable meaning. This matter, which seemed like a small matter of two children's marriage almost being ruined, actually had a lot of hidden meaning. The sky inspecting minister reappeared in the mortal world and came to Shangjing. He interrogated a series of big families in Shangjing one after another. Previously, it was the Wang family, and now it was the Yu family's turn. Almost all the big families with top-notch star souls did not make any mistakes. Next, it was the Bai family, where the Lady of the Clouds came from, and the families of the four great commanders of the East, West, North, and South also started to reorganize. Zhuo Zhonglu's real goal was to take action in all aspects of the continent. Yu Dongtian understood. This matter was of great significance to the Yu clan, and it would benefit them in the long run. But in the end, the Yu clan was just a chess piece in the minister's hands. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey, knocking the mountain to warn the tiger, nothing more than that. Even the heavenly king of the Wrights family had been dealt with, and almost all the higher-ups were uprooted and sent to the front lines. How awesome did you have to be able to withstand this, and still dare to commit crimes? The banquet ended. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuting found a guest room to rest, while Zhuo Xiaoyan went to take care of her parents. After all, Zhuo Chonglu and his wife had prepared a huge amount of good things for their daughter, who had just ascended to the Skysoar realm. These were things that couldn't be revealed in front of others. It was enough for him to know the benefits of being the second generation of top-notch cultivators. There was no need to show off in front of others and cause unnecessary trouble for no reason. Nan Zhengxian and Dongfang Zhenyang took their leave. Even the Heavenly King of the Right and Baiyun Fairy's families had to reorganize themselves. Naturally, they did not dare to delay and hurried back to reorganize their families. Yu Dongtian also left, but before he left, he gave Mu Songjun and his wife a house. Yep, to be more precise, it was a large courtyard. The Yu family was fully responsible for the hygiene and security of the courtyard. Ever since Yu Dongtian knew that Mo Xuanyi was an elite disciple who had betrayed the greedy wolf sect, he had made this decision long ago. Because in the sky above Shangjing, the power of the southern 6 stars, northern 95 stars was faintly converging. Although Yu Dongtian had not reached the level of Zhuo Chonglu and his wife who could sense the heaven and earth, he could still sense it. The Stargate sect was ruthless to their enemies, but they were even more ruthless to their traitorous disciples. If they knew that Mo Xuanyi was in Shangjing, they would definitely kill Mo Xuanyi together with him. Yu Dongtian felt that he would definitely cry. It was better to be safe than sorry. With Yu Dongtian's eloquence and ability to sway people, as well as his ability to subtly influence people's minds, Mo Xuanyi's family had become the big landlords of Shangjing in a daze. Yep, how could the courtyard given by the Heavenly King of the Right be small? Mo Xuanyi's family was, of course, the big landlords of Shangjing in reality. Zhuo Xiaoduo was surrounded by Li Chenglong and the others and forcefully escorted into the Void Extermination Tower. Zhuo, what is your uncle's identity? Tell us about it. Everyone's eyes were sparkling with curiosity, and it was rare that there was no coercion. Zhuo Xiaoduo showed off. I've already told you that I'm a super second generation, a top second generation cultivator, but you didn't believe me. Now you believe me, right? Everyone nodded in unison. It was really impossible not to believe him. Although at some point during the meal, everyone seemed to be in a state where they suddenly seemed to be cut off from the current atmosphere, or it could be said that their time inexplicably paused, or there was a gap in their memories. In short, there were many, many abnormal signs. But no matter what, Great General Dongfang was not a fake. What is his identity? Everyone's eyes were full of curiosity. Guess. So Xiaoduo crossed his legs, shook his head proudly, and wagged his tail. Everyone was speechless. Originally, they still had some respect and distance for this guy's identity as a second-generation cultivator, but now that they saw this guy's arrogant and despicable demeanor, the previous feeling completely disappeared. I can't guess. I don't dare to guess. Then you can continue to be depressed. Zhuo Xiaoduo was full of himself, and in the space of the Tower of Annihilation, he looked up to the sky and howled, hee. Everyone pressed for a long time, but Zhuo Xiaoduo was determined not to say anything, and his attitude became more and more despicable, but in fact, he had no choice. His father had solemnly said that he wanted to take a good look at these little guys in the next few days. Without his father's permission, he could not directly or indirectly reveal anything. If everyone guessed, there was not something he could say. At this moment, looking at everyone's gloomy faces, Zhuo Xiaoduo was so happy that his tail was about to stand up. The night was silent. Li Chenglong and the others stayed in the Tower of Annihilation to carry out their last suppression. Zhuo Xiaoduo was about to break through, so naturally, he could not continue to stay in the tower and had to go out. Unfortunately, Zhuo Chonglu and his wife had brought Zhuo Xiaoyan with them at this time, and they did not know what to say in the room. Zhuo Xiaoduo knocked for a long time, but the door did not open. Feeling that he was ignored, he could not help but feel unhappy. Suddenly, he saw the whole table full of dishes and cups that had not been cleaned up. Zhuo Xiaoduo waved his hand, and spiritual energy suddenly surged. In an instant, the whole room was cleaned up. However, so Xiaoduo's way of cleaning the room was different. Instead of cleaning the bowls, chopsticks, cups, and plates and tidying them up neatly, he wrapped everything with his vital energy and directly put them away. With a whoosh, he threw them out, and with a bang, they landed in a garbage station a few kilometers away. Rich, willful. Then he wiped the table, put all the chairs back in place, and announced that he was done. If I use this skill to do housework, with this level of dexterity, how much money can I make? It had to be said that Zhuo Xiaoduo's mind was full of wonderful ideas. Moreover, from the beginning to the end, it was a different kind of contribution that ordinary people could not achieve. After waiting for a long time, the Zhuo couple and Zhuo Xiaoyan still had not finished chatting. So Xiaoduo, who was extremely bored, carefully mobilized the last few strands of vital energy in his dantian. Bit by bit, he turned them into the power of the Flaming Sun manual, and then purified them further, turning them into the power of the primordial fire. However, this was all he could do now. If he wanted to further transform the primordial fire into the pure Zhu Rong primordial fire, with his current level of cultivation, it was still beyond his ability. If he forced a fusion, Zhuo Xiaoduo would probably turn into a huge fireball in an instant, and then turn into a sky full of fireflies and disappear into the dust. Strands of vital energy were transformed. Zhuo Xiaoduo sat cross-legged in the living room, carefully and cautiously, and did not dare to slack off. Finally, the last strand of vital energy was gone. It was completely refined, and there was not a single strand of energy left. At this moment, a little understanding inexplicably grew from the bottom of his heart and continuously surged. Force could be borrowed, but it could not be relied on. Only one's own force could truly belong to oneself. How to move one's mind, how to merge the 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls into one, and then release that unique, charming, and exclusive force that Zhuo Xiaoduo was carefully trying to figure out the mystery. However, at the moment when the last strand of vital energy was refined, the world suddenly changed. The change was carried out silently, but the entire sky above Shangjing was instantly filled with wind and clouds. Countless black clouds of smoke came from all directions at lightning speed, converging in this direction at an extremely fast speed. The silent lightning bolts were like dense spiderwebs, quietly weaving into a huge net that encompassed 3 continents in the sky. After a while, a black cloud in the middle of the giant net slowly rotated, and the pitch-black color immediately dyed the entire blue sky a piano black. As if they had sensed something, the other 2 huge black clouds that also covered the sky slowly began to rotate. Almost at the same time, another red cloud with an extremely strange hue quietly rushed from afar. In the blink of an eye, it had already reached the middle of the sky. Then, the 3 black clouds and the red cloud entangled together, and the strange red cloud that came later was even more overbearing and powerful. It forcibly squeezed into the middle of the 3 black clouds, and the original 3 clouds turned into 4 clouds. In the entire sky, it was as if 4 huge eyes had appeared, and they were all slowly rotating. 3 black and 1 red. This state only lasted for a moment, and another purple cloud appeared on the horizon, and with the same overbearing momentum, rushed into the clouds. Another gray cloud also rose in another direction, and another green cloud suddenly soared into the sky, joining the clouds forcefully. But at this point, 7 clouds had arrived in the sky one after another and rotated together in the sky. The scene was unprecedentedly magnificent, but also extremely strange. In the room, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding, who had sensed the change, stood side by side and looked at the sudden strange phenomenon in the sky. Their faces were as gloomy as water, and the heavy worry in their eyes almost condensed into a substance. Zhuo Xiaoduo had not given the news of a breakthrough, but the heavenly tribulations had already sensed it and had begun to gather and move. Moreover, as soon as he made a move, the commotion was so shocking and grand. How can there be heavenly tribulations of the 7 clans? Wu Yuding could not understand and was even a little angry. Isn't this targeting my son? Isn't this bullying? Are you using this kind of heavenly tribulations to split the sky? Chapter 1179. Don't be impatient. Zhuo Changlu's eyes were deep as he patted his wife's shoulder. If it's just the heavenly tribulation of the 7 clans, it might be better. At least it's better than the worst outcome I expected. Huh? The worst outcome you expected is worse than this? Xiao Duo has a lot of karma, and most of it is his own doing. He's asking for trouble, and it has nothing to do with anyone, Zhuo Changlu said with a toothache. But what did he do? How did he get involved with so much karma? What did he do? Think about it carefully. He was born in the astral souls, in the Tao League, and he's a peerless genius. The heavenly tribulation of the 2 clans can't be avoided. After that, he took Flood as his adoptive father. Flood is now the top master of the Wu people. Naturally, he's involved with the Umno Alliance's heavenly Tao. This time, he went to the Wu people and received the inheritance of Zhu Wu Zhuron. He's inseparable from the Wu people's heavenly Tao. After that, he told us about his relationship with the Spirit Clan and the Demon Clan. I'm afraid there's a lot of karma that we and even you don't know about. In this case, it's the heavenly tribulation of the 5 clans. Even if there's karma between the Spirit Clan and the Demon Clan, the current situation is that the heavenly Tao of the Demon Clan is involved. What do you think? I don't understand this either. But our son has always had a lot of adventures. Maybe he offended the Demon Clan for some reason. Even so, it's only the 6 clans. Where did the karma that belongs to the Western sect come from? You said that he got involved with the Demon Clan for some reason, and I agree. But there hasn't been any information about the Western sect for millions of years. It's not even recorded in the ancient legends. How did they get involved? Wu Yuding's question was also Zhuo Changlu's question. Both of them felt this was too strange. What did their son have to do with the Western sect? Why did the 7 great heavenly Tao gather for no reason? How was he going to let others have a good time? By the way, you said that there are worse possibilities. What could be worse than this? Wu Yuding asked nervously. Zhuo Changlu smiled bitterly. You missed a lot of information about her son, or rather, who didn't care, did you? He was famous in Phoenix City. How could Master's name be false? I don't know where this method of his came from, but the root of his guidance is to deduce the mysteries of heaven. Stealing the heart of heaven as my heart and seeing the future, wouldn't that be forming karma with the heavenly Tao? What's more, he almost reversed the situation and helped Nian resist the huge karma of the Phoenix Pulse Soul. If the most serious situation occurred, the backlash of these 2 karmas would be the most terrifying. Wu Yuding's expression changed again and again. She said in a trembling voice, Fortunately, there is only the heavenly tribulation of the 7 races right now. Without the 2 karmas that you set up in advance, there is still a chance. No, there's more. There's more. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding's expressions changed. Their eyes focused and their bodies stiffened. In the eastern sky, a cloud suddenly rushed up, and the cloud formed a golden dragon that suddenly rushed out. In an instant, it circled thousands of miles and covered the sky. At the same time, in the western sky, a 5-colored phoenix spread its wings and flew up. In a moment, the dragon and phoenix turned into a huge whirlpool in the sky above Shangjing. Damn, even the heavenly Tao of the ancient god race is here to join in the fun. Zhuo Changlu's usually calm eyes showed panic for the first time. He even seemed to be gnashing his teeth. Wu Yuding clasped her hands together and scolded. This little bastard is really a troublemaker. How can such a heavenly tribulation be perfect? Looking at the situation now, I'm afraid. It's already difficult to survive. Wu Yuding's voice hadn't finished resounding through the air when another tribulation cloud that seemed like a ghastly mist charged swiftly into the sky and converged with the numerous tribulation clouds in the sky. Wu Yuding's expression changed drastically. Zhuo Changlu's body also stiffened instantly. They're all here. It's the 9 great heavenly Tao and the 10 complete lightning tribulations. Zhuo Changlu's face turned pale. My son has created history, but I'm very curious. Where did he get the ability to attract so much karma? A figure flashed, and Lei Chantian descended from the sky. My goodness, what did you two give birth to? So many karmic heavenly tribulations. It's going to be smashed into pieces. Looking at the momentum, let alone passing through it perfectly, I'm afraid even the chance of reincarnation will be. Shut up. Wu Yuting fiercely turned her head and looked at her father, roaring fiercely. Duh. The demon ancestor's head drooped, and he could no longer open his mouth. Just as Wu Yuting, Zhui Changlu, and Lei Chantian were extremely surprised, in Zhou Xiao's void destroying pagoda, the Huahuang sword appeared in the air with clang. Sword light shot out in all directions, and demon aura rose. With a whoosh, it rushed out of the space and entered Zhou Xiao's divine soul. The god-slaying spear Yin Shirsi followed closely behind. Demonic flames soared and turned into a black fog, flashing away. Bai and Jiu jumped a few times and also jumped out. Xiao Zhao's 3 legs jumped up and down, and with a whoosh, it turned into a flame. The dragon of luck Xiao Long, who rarely appeared in front of people, also came out from the mountains. He flew up silently and hurriedly. The super heavenly tribulation that made the Zhou couple worried and terrified was about to happen. However, the person involved, Zhou Xiaoduo, didn't know that a calamity was about to befall him. He didn't even know that his godson and whatnot were moving out together. He only felt various kinds of enlightenment in his mind. Immediately, he entered a state of enlightenment where he forgot about everything around him. Fortunately, the whole process only lasted for a short minute. However, there were too many kinds of enlightenment, and they all rushed into his mind at the same time. His head swelled uncomfortably as if it was about to explode. Unable to bear the burden, he immediately woke up. When his mind regained its clarity, Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked to discover that the true essence in his body had already shown signs of going berserk. At this stage, even if he had the help of a transcendent cultivator to suppress it, or even some miraculous spirit medicine, it would be of no use. He had to face this breakthrough, the breakthrough to the Sky Soar realm. A power that could topple mountains and overturn seas rushed towards the flying heavens pass like a hot knife through butter. Originally, he had already touched the door and could break through the barrier with just a light touch. However, at this moment, it was like an impenetrable and unbreakable wall. Zhou Xiaoduo thought that he would succeed naturally, but something unexpected happened. He was surprised to see that on the other side of the Sky Soar realm, there was a mixture of different colors. What's going on? Before Zhou Xiaoduo could figure out what was going on, the pressure in the sky came down on him. The true origin in his body suddenly burst out. Zhou Xiaoduo only felt that his insides were burning. He couldn't control himself and shouted, "Dad, I'm going to break through." Before his voice died away, Zhui Changlu, who had been paying attention to his son's every move, suddenly appeared beside him. He grabbed his son's neck and disappeared with a whoosh. Then, Lei Chantian followed closely. Bai Yunduo flew under the clouds, and Wu Yuting took Zhui Xiaoyan and broke through the sky. Zhou Changlu was so fast that the father and son were already at the top of the Broken Soul Cliff in the blink of an eye. Zhou Changlu suddenly let go of Zhou Xiaoduo, and Zhou Xiaoduo fell on the cliff. Put on the protective gear your mother gave you and prepare all the medicine you need. Swallow a few pills with the tip of your tongue first. There's something fishy about this flying tribulation. You have to deal with it with all your might. Don't be careless. Zhou Changlu said in a deep voice. Yes. Don't forget the key points I told you. Deal with it carefully. Wu Yuting's voice also came. Like the evening drum and morning bell, she reminded Zhou Xiaoduo of all the things she reminded him. Once again, she imprinted them into Zhou Xiaoduo's spirit sea with the method of divine sense empowerment. I remember, Mom. Don't worry, Zhou Xiaoduo shouted with difficulty. Immediately, he calmed down and dealt with the surging true origin. He tried to restrain it and guide it into the right direction. In a moment, the 10 huge whirlpools in the sky came to the top of his head again. From the slow rotation to the fast rotation, the intense rotation. Then, it was almost impossible to see clearly that within a radius of 10,000 miles, the huge spiritual energy in all directions was sucked dry by the 10 tribulation eyes in the sky in an instant. There was not a drop left. The indifferent heavens came down mightily. The great Tao was ruthless, and karma was reincarnation. This guy dared to defy the heavens. He must be scorched on the outside and tender on the inside. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding stood 100 miles away, one in the east and one in the west. Even though the couple had high cultivation at this moment, they did not dare to make the slightest move. Half of their attention was focused on their son, and the other half was focused on the periphery to eliminate the possibility of external interference from outside the heaven realm. Zhuo Xiaoyan and Wu Yuding were on the side. One of their hands was tightly clasped on Wu Yuding's arm, and they looked extremely nervous. Lei Changtian and Bai Yunduo were in the north and south respectively. They were also on high alert. This lineup of guardians was a little scary, with the 4 of them protecting him. Even if the 12 great shamans and the 7 swords of the Tao League attacked together, so Xiaoduo would be safe and sound for a while. However, the 4 of them were all experts in cultivation. How could they not know that the key point of their defense was not the destruction of any enemies in the world, but the evil hidden behind every tribulation thunder during the tribulation? A perfect breakthrough was easier said than done. Since ancient times, even the heavens were not perfect. If Xiaoduo wanted to break through the boundary between man and heaven with a perfect posture, he would definitely attract the greatest evil in the world. Yes, at this moment, even the heavenly Tao was jealous of Zhuo Xiaoduo. The jealousy of the whole world. There was not a single cultivator who was not jealous. The wrath of the heavenly Tao was a natural disaster that could be vented through the tribulation thunder. After the natural disaster, there were also man-made disasters. After the tribulation thunder, the aftershocks would attract the resentment of countless cultivators. They would surround Zhuo Xiaoduo from all sides and surge in like a gust of wind. As long as they rushed in and landed on Zhuo Xiaoduo, they would form an inner demon. Once the inner demon was formed, it would not be a perfect breakthrough, and Zhuo Changlu and the others had to cut off all the inner demons from invading, begging for monthly votes at midnight. Chapter 1180. Of the 4 people that Zhuo Changlu found, Zhuo Changlu, his wife, and the demon ancestor Lei Changtian naturally didn't have to worry about the so-called inner demons. They were purely family. However, Bai Yun Fairy and Bai Yunduo were still not completely at ease. Because such a perfect breakthrough, even Bai Yunduo, who had reached the Heavenly King stage, might be jealous. However, they couldn't find a more suitable 4th person at the moment. The Flood Witch's state of mind cultivation was naturally competent. However, if they had to call the Flood over for today's matter, it was a little inexcusable. Well, Zhuo Changlu also didn't expect the situation to change like this. In the end, he still underestimated the extent of the trouble that Zhuo Xiaoduo caused. He actually caused such a huge karma and the heavenly tribulation of the 9 clans. He really didn't expect it. Suddenly, the 10 whirlpools of clouds in the sky pressed down from a height of 10,000 meters. The heavenly tribulation was pressing down, and death was imminent. This sense of déjà vu made Zhuo Xiaoyan, the 5th protector, turn pale all of a sudden. The heavenly tribulation seemed to be about 1,000 meters away from Zhuo Xiaoduo. Well, to put it more accurately, it was 999 meters, at the moment when the heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly pressed down, or it should be said that at the moment when Zhuo Changlu suddenly flew here with Zhuo Xiaoduo, under the Death Soul Cliff. The huge demonic beast flashed half of its head out of the cave with a face full of panic. Its 2 big eyes were full of panic and indescribable grievance and depression. Is that so? Mom, how'd this thing get on top of my head? Isn't this like a beast sitting at home, and disaster comes from the sky? The monster was extremely depressed. It was almost going crazy. How could it be like this? Just now, when it sensed that there was such a huge heavenly tribulation far away, the demonic beast had been gloating in its heart and almost laughed out loud. Ha ha ha! Let's see who can survive such a ferocious heavenly tribulation. Hee hee. It's a pity that I can't go and watch the show. It's really a pity. Who would have thought that before he could gloat over his misfortune, this heavenly tribulation would actually appear above his head as if it had grown legs? I haven't left this place for hundreds of thousands of years. Can't you have some conscience? All these years, I haven't even heard an earthworm. Why is that? Since ancient times, ever since I was born, I have been known as the god of disaster. Wherever I go, there will be disasters. I'm the true star of misfortune. But what was going on today? Whose luck was so strong? She had actually become my unlucky star. If you want to transcend the tribulation, can't you find somewhere else? A better place? Do you have to transcend the tribulation on my head? Are you crazy? Feeling the vast heavenly might crashing down on it, the demonic beast began to cry to spare my life. Please don't get me involved. Slowly, using the slowest speed possible, it slowly retracted its head, retracted all of its aura, and retracted all of its divine sense. Don't notice me. Please don't notice me. It prayed continuously in its heart. It was so scared that saliva flowed out of its mouth, continuously dripping down, washing the tattered person beside it. But it couldn't be blamed for being a coward. The main reason was that the place where Zwashauduo was transcending the tribulation was right above its head. As long as the heavenly Tao discovered its existence, it would immediately regard it as the existence that destroyed the tribulation. At that time, the tribulation would immediately increase its strength. Zwashauduo, who was transcending the tribulation above, would definitely not be lucky, and this fellow below would definitely not be spared either. Even if Zwashauduo was struck into ashes, the tribulation would definitely not stop. Instead, it would not stop until this fellow was also struck into ashes. What kind of monster is transcending the tribulation? Even the tribulation of becoming a sage since ancient times does not have such 9 heavenly Tao and 10 complete lightning tribulations. What the fuck? The monster was so scared that its heart was about to spasm. I'm so wronged. I'm so wronged. At this moment, Zwashauduo only felt that the spiritual energy that he had just restrained and suppressed had once again erupted. It flowed along his meridians at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had already completed 99 cycles. Then, it brazenly charged towards the sky barrier. Zwashauduo's thoughts flashed. He quickly put on the waistcoat made from the skin of a heavenly king-level demon beast, then put on his jacket, coat, leather shoes, helmet, and stretched his legs to stretch his arms and legs. Then he directly stuffed a whole bottle of elixirs that Wei gave him directly into his mouth. Only then did he have time to look up at the clouds in the sky that seemed to be within reach. Suddenly, an extremely curious and great sense of accomplishment arose in his heart. This is my first time transcending the tribulation, but such a big scene. Doesn't this prove my great achievement? This is really too awesome. I, Zwashauduo, am the awesome class. No one before and no one after. I, Zwashauduo, Master Zwa, Iron Fist Prince, Crystal Cat, Zwashauduo. Roar. Only 2 words can describe me. Awesome. Thinking of his physiognomy, his parents didn't have any intention of losing their child in their middle age. My manifestation technique has never failed. This time will be no exception. It will definitely be safe. With this thought in mind, he became even more complacent and proud of himself. He actually struck a flirtatious pose and hooked his finger at the 10 vortexes in the sky. He shook his buttocks and shouted, "Come and chop me. Come and chop me. Don't provoke me." When Wei saw this scene, black lines immediately appeared on her forehead. This bastard actually dared to provoke the heavens at such a time. You're already dangerous enough, do you know that? Why, if this guy wasn't transcending the tribulation, Wei would definitely rush over and beat him up, or even 10 or 100 times. Even if you want to die, you don't have to do this. Do you know? In the sky, following Xiaoduo's clamor, the vortex cloud cluster in the middle suddenly stopped spinning. Then a thin, blazing white lightning struck down directly, facing the imminent tribulation. Xiaoduo's expression was calm and at ease. He didn't move, and the raging fire which helmet on his head had automatically withstood this tribulation lightning. This helmet, which originated from the raging fire which was not only unique in texture, but also most compatible with Xiaoduo. Although the initial lightning tribulation seemed to be powerful, it was still the beginning of the lightning tribulation, and its power was limited. If it took a lot of effort to deal with this lightning tribulation, or even a lot of energy, then there was no need to transcend the following lightning tribulations, and he could just wait for death. With the help of the raging fire witch helmet, he resisted the power of the initial lightning tribulation, and the powerful aftermath of the power spread in all directions. However, Xiaoduo felt an inexplicable force rushing into his body, and integrated with the primordial fire vital spirit all over his body. This force did not belong to him, nor was it the feedback force of the raging fire witch helmet. It was a feeling that was very weak, but very clear, and contained a unique feeling of Taoist connotation that at this moment, Xiaoduo felt the blissful benefits of being a second-generation top-notch cultivator. Under the protection of the great Inferno Witch's helmet, he didn't feel the slightest bit of vibration, and there wasn't even the slightest bit of injury. It was simply completely receiving the benefits. This was the correct way to transcend the heavenly tribulation. Comfortable. If so, let the benefits come more fiercely. Let the heavenly tribulation come more fiercely. The heavenly tribulation is nothing more than this. Xiaoduo laughed wildly, laughing like a fool, very arrogant. Don't provoke me. Changlu followed in the footsteps of Wu Yuding, and he was also speechless. This guy really didn't know what was good for him under the eyes of the heavenly tribulation. Xiaoduo was majestic and fearless. He laughed and stood at the highest point of the mountain, motionless, with his clothes fluttering, waiting for the heavenly tribulation to come. This was the first time in Xiaoduo's life to experience the heavenly tribulation, with the support of countless resources and materials. In his view, the heavenly tribulation was nothing to be afraid of at all. It was just a simple gift of benefits. This would be the first time in his life as a top second-generation cultivator to win without doing anything. As a result, he couldn't wait for the arrival of the heavenly tribulation. Then, one after another, the tribulation thunder fell from the different eyes of the heavenly tribulation and fell on Xiaoduo's body and head. Xiaoduo was in an extremely arrogant posture, motionless, arrogant, and insufferably arrogant. Well, in his bones, he was carefully chewing the weak but clear special Taoist connotation. When to do something, Xiaoduo still had a deep understanding of it. Lei Changtian yelled in the distance, "Kid, why don't you hide? At least show some respect to the heavens." Before his voice died away, the first round of tribulation thunder had passed. However, the end of the initial tribulation meant that the more intense second tribulation was coming. The tribulation eye in the middle suddenly lit up, and a tribulation thunder as thick as a bucket fell with a boom. Changlu and Wu Yuding's eyes widened at the sight. Damn, the second tribulation is already so fierce. Shouldn't it come step by step? Is there a way out for us? According to Changlu and his wife's estimation, a tribulation thunder of this level should at least be at the fourth or fifth tribulation. But now, it was actually at the second tribulation. Damn it. For a moment, they couldn't help but feel more worried. Xiaoduo's heavenly tribulation was different from that of ordinary people. Ordinary people only needed to go through one tribulation to cross the limit between man and heaven and reach the Skysoar realm. However, Xiaoduo's perfect breakthrough required him to go through 10 lightning tribulations. Comparing the two, they couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Not to mention other things, just the last tribulation thunder of destruction was enough for ordinary people to survive one wave. However, Zhuo still needed to survive 9 waves of tribulation thunder of destruction, and each wave was more violent than the previous one. Just thinking about it made Wu Yuding feel a little suffocated. My duo dog. Why is this kid so pitiful? The most pitiful thing is, this bastard still doesn't know anything. His momentary complacency led to his arrogance and provocation that you'll never know what you're provoking. When you know, you'll regret it very much. Son, you reckless little dog, I really want to rush up and beat you up. Chapter 1181. Rumble, the tribulation lightning struck once again. So Xiaoduo held his head high and puffed out his chest, proudly welcoming it, just like before. But this time, with a loud explosion, Xiaoduo felt as if his head was hit by a 1,000-soul nightmare hammer. A sense of dizziness rose from the depths of his soul, and he couldn't help but shake his head. The powerful force penetrated the top of his head and rushed all the way down. Crack! Under his feet, the pair of boots made of heavenly king-level demon bee skin had been torn apart. And above his head, the raging fire witch helmet that had withstood the initial tribulation with its own strength and was completely undamaged was now charred black. If the helmet had a spirit, it would have been cursing at this moment. I'm awesome and my defense is strong, but I can't just stand there and be beaten up like this. This is a fucking heavenly tribulation. Since ancient times, I've never seen anyone provoke a heavenly tribulation. Today is really an eye-opener. This sentence is suitable for anyone, including Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding. Fuck! Zhuo Xiaoduo saw that the situation was not right, and he began to feel a little scared. This development is a little wrong. On the way here, Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding patiently explained the severity of this heavenly tribulation to him again and again. Unfortunately, although Zhuo Xiaoduo was more alert, he still didn't pay enough attention to it, especially when the raging fire which helmet performed so well during the initial tribulation dot. But this tribulation lightning made him sober up a lot. This is still different from my expectation of winning by lying down. It seems that I can't just stand there and be struck. I have to do something else. So Xiaoduo's thoughts turned, and the 99 cat hammer suddenly appeared in his hand. How dare you strike me? Heavenly tribulation, I'll fight it out with you. So what Xiaoduo was thinking was different from dodging. He was prepared to fight it head on. He felt that he could win. Many years later, I'll hug Yin Yin and give birth to a group of milky babies and brag. Back then, your father was also someone who resisted the heavenly tribulation head-on. He had even thought about his tone and posture when the time came, imagining the adoring gazes of the children. He seemed to hear tender calls in his ears. Children, Papa is so powerful. So Xiaoduo felt like he was floating in the air that rumbled. The next heavenly tribulation lightning descended from the heavens. Its might even greater than before. Go away. So Xiaoduo was full of vigor. He pointed his hammer at the sky and used the most elegant posture to fiercely attack. Boom! Lei Chantian covered his eyes with one hand, his heart filled with emotions. I've never bowed down to anyone except for Zhuo. But today, there's a second one. But I never thought that the second one would be Zhuo's son. He really had guts. Ever since there were cultivators in the world, no one had ever dared to go against the tribulation lightning. He had always dodged and dodged. Only when he could no longer dodge would he bear the brunt of it. Speaking of taking out a weapon to confront the heavenly tribulation head-on, this was truly unprecedented. This fellow in front of him was truly the first person to create a new world. You really aren't afraid of anything. Zhuo Changlu and the other 4 watched as Xiaoduo raised his 2 hammers and collided with the tribulation lightning in a fearless manner. Suddenly, the entire night sky seemed to have been set off by an enormous firework. Endless, overflowing electric light rushed in all directions like an explosion in the starry sky. Xiaoduo's counterattack had actually gained the upper hand. When he felt the itchy feeling again, the clear, Taoist connotation from before flowed into his body again. It was extremely comfortable. So Xiao Duo succeeded in his attack and continued to point his hammer at the sky, assuming an invincible posture. He was really handsome and elegant. He laughed loudly and said, "Awesome. Again, again. I've found another way to deal with the heavenly tribulation. So awesome." Jiao Mao, who had just been baptized by the tribulation lightning, shot out electric light from her right hammer. Another electric light came crashing down. She raised the hammer in her left hand and smashed it down again. Then, the left hammer also shot out electric light in all directions. It was extremely gorgeous. Bolts of tribulation lightning fell one after another. So Xiao Duo was getting more and more excited. He let out a long howl and flew into the air to intercept the tribulation lightning. He hammered left, hammered right, and hammered once more. Boom, boom, boomed up the entire night sky. Was like someone was constantly setting off magnificent fireworks. Furthermore, the fireworks were tens of thousands of times bigger than the usual fireworks. Looking at Zhou Xiaoduo, who was busy and excited, Lei Changtian was speechless. "Kid, you're just doing it. Do you really think that? The heavenly Tao has no feelings and won't get angry? You're wrong, little dog. You're so wrong. The tribulation lightning is just playing with you step by step. If it really wants to kill you, you'll be reduced to ashes with one strike of the divine thunder of annihilation. That look at how lively and cute you are dancing. The second wave of tribulation lightning had finished with 10 strikes of tribulation lightning. Zhou Xiaoduo was still unscathed. He even felt that his body was more solid than before. The real essence in his body was more condensed and vigorous. Traces of impurities that even the 9 heavens spiritual spring water couldn't expel were being forced out of his skin under the constant baptism of the tribulation lightning. The real essence in his body continued to rumble. There was endless spiritual chi between heaven and earth flowing into his meridians. The real chi was so abundant that it was about to explode. If he didn't find a way to vent it out, he might really explode because he couldn't bear it anymore. At this time, the tribulation lightning fell one after another, providing Zhou Xiaoduo with a channel to vent it out. Under the gaze of Zhou Changlu and the others, the third wave of tribulation lightning came as expected. It felt like an avalanche. This wave of tribulation lightning was still as thick as a bucket, no different from the second wave of tribulation lightning. However, Zhou Changlu and the others had good eyesight, so how could they not see the difference? Inside the tribulation lightning, it was clear that its strength had increased. The flickering light inside showed that its strength had increased by at least twofold. Zhou Xiaoduo was still holding the 9-9 kitty hammer in his hand. He continued to jump up and down, fighting heroically against the tribulation lightning. In the flickering lightning, a man with 2 hammers was fighting against the heavens. What a heroic spirit. Damn, little doggy is so cool. After the initial nervousness and the previous wave of tribulation lightning with 2 hammers, Zhou Xiaoyan was relieved. At this moment, her eyes were flashing red, and her hands were clasped in front of her heart. Looking at her, it was obvious that she was enchanted. I love him so much that the man of my dreams, my man, dares to fight against the heavens, and he's not at a disadvantage at all. He's so handsome. For a moment, Zhou Xiaoyan felt very safe. She didn't have to worry about the heavens and earth. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo's handsome hammer smashed another tribulation lightning. In the midst of the lightning and thunder, that handsome figure, that handsome posture, so handsome, Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes twinkled. Wu Yuding glanced at her daughter from the corner of her eyes. Handsome? Then take a closer look. This little doggy is courting death. How long can he be handsome for? Anyway, as his mother, I really don't think he's going to succeed. But I can rest assured that the perfect tribulation lightning should be gone because of this little doggy's courting death. But his life wouldn't be in any danger. After all, the heavenly Tao array was waiting for him here. He couldn't die. Sigh, this is considered success. We were too greedy in the first place. Wu Yuding and Zhou Chanlu looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. In this world, there was no such thing as a perfect tribulation. They were thinking too much. Moreover, even if it was a perfect tribulation lightning, after this little doggie's provocation, it probably wouldn't be perfect anymore. Even a clay figurine would be uncouth, let alone the heavenly Tao that controlled all things. The heavenly Tao had always been good at dealing with all kinds of things. At the bottom of the broken soul cliff, the monster was trembling all over. Originally, in the 3 continents of the witchcraft Tao and the astral souls, there were very few things that could make him afraid. However, due to his understanding of the tribulation lightning and his innate fear, the fear in his heart soared to the extreme. The fact that a heavenly tribulation had come from above was already frightening enough. What was even more unexpected was that it was a 10 heavenly tribulation. If it was just a 10 heavenly tribulation, it would be fine. As the person who was going through the tribulation lightning, he should be fine and obediently go through the tribulation lightning. Even if it was just a 10 heavenly tribulation, it wouldn't be good. However, who would have thought that the person who was going through the tribulation lightning was actually a lunatic? Damn it. Spare me. I really can't take it anymore. I haven't been struck to death by the tribulation lightning, but I'm going to be scared to death by the lunatic above. Fighting against the tribulation lightning. He's actually going against the tribulation lightning head-on. Can you be any more courting death? I've had enough. After hiding for so many years, I actually met such a lunatic. Honorable Tao ancestor above, I really didn't do it on purpose. Please understand. Please, you must be clear about this. I've been sleeping here all this while. I was just sleeping, and this fellow took the initiative to go through the tribulation lightning on my bed. Woo-woo. It's really not my fault. I'm really innocent. I'm really innocent. I know I shouldn't be trembling, but I can't stop. Spare me. I'll be more honest in the future. I'll sleep here in the future, and I promise I won't snore anymore. Please believe me. Zhuo was able to control the tribulation lightning as if it was his own arm. In addition, he had survived the 3rd round of tribulation lightning. His posture was still as cool as ever, and his attitude was still as calm as ever. The tribulation lightning is a kind of baptism to some extent. If I can get through it, there will be endless benefits. Zhuo did not know about other things, but the endless benefits. Zhuo had already felt it. As expected, the tribulation lightning was a gift from the heavens. That's great. This feeling makes me want to stop. Zhuo stood upright with 2 hammers in his hands. He looked up at the sky and roared, full of vigor. I, Zhuo, have given up on a mortal world, fame, and dust, and walked millions of miles of clouds and moon. Finally, I've reached this moment. One more step, and I'll become a saint. Don't be idle. Your young years are white, and you're sad. Tribulation lightning. Don't be idle. Don't wait. Come quickly. The 4th round of tribulation lightning. Come quickly. Masters with big hammers are thirsty for it. When other people went through the tribulation lightning, they would say that they had survived the 3rd tribulation lightning. However, Zhuo, which round was he in? Round. When placed here, this word could be said to have an exceptional spirituality and smoothness. Chapter 1182. Rumble, Kacha at the anticipated 4th round of lightning tribulation came as scheduled. From the 4th round onwards, Zhuo felt the pressure for the first time. The lightning tribulation still looked as thick as before, but the color inside was getting darker. The colorful light inside was getting brighter and brighter, more and more flickering. Through the confrontation perception, the power of each lightning tribulation was more than 10 times stronger than the previous 3 rounds. Zhuo still held the cat hammer in his hand to confront it head-on. Every lightning tribulation was a tough collision, just like before. But Zhuo clearly felt that. He was afraid that he could not hold on for long. Obviously, the huge spiritual power from the outside world was still pouring into his body, But every time he resisted the lightning tribulation, it consumed an unusually large amount of spiritual power. The spiritual power in his body, which was originally full of vitality, was being consumed at such a high intensity and gradually showed signs of being unable to continue. So Xiaoduo wanted to use the 3 elixirs under his tongue and the elixir that he had already swallowed and wrapped in spiritual power. But now it was not the time yet. It was not the most dangerous time yet. So he could not use it. That was a trump card at this moment, as Xiaoduo could not help but reflect. What he was doing now was a little too big. However, looking at the protection on his body, he immediately felt relieved. The protection was basically complete. Except for a pair of boots that had been torn apart, the rest could still hold up, especially the helmet of the Great Fire, which, its compatibility was really unusually compatible with himself. After being infused with his primordial fire real chi, it became even more solid that in this way, he still had a lot of confidence. But he did not know if he could resist the remaining lightning tribulations, as Xiaoduo did not have a hard time dealing with the 4th round of lightning tribulation. The 5th round of lightning tribulation was not much stronger than the 4th round. It was a little difficult to deal with it, but the consumption of spiritual power was more severe. However, in the 6th round, the intensity was twice as high as the 5th round. So Xiaoduo spent a lot of energy to get through the 6th round. He felt that if the intensity continued to increase, he would be able to get through the 6th round unscathed. Although it consumed a lot of energy, the baptism of the several rounds of tribulation thunder allowed him to experience the comprehension of the Taoist connotation one after another, which made great progress in his cultivation realm. With his equipment, combined with his own strength, and the little guys who had yet to assist him, he really didn't feel much pressure. So what's the big deal? Thinking of this, Xiaoduo could not help but feel smug. Ha, that's all there is to it. After 6 rounds, Xiaoduo looked up to the sky and laughed. After the 6th round of tribulation lightning, the wind and clouds gathered in the sky. The 10 tribulation eyes rotated slowly, but no new tribulation lightning fell. Seeing this, Xiaoduo felt even more relieved. He thought to himself, is it over? Didn't they say there would be 9 rounds? Changlu's sound transmission came in time. Special types of heavenly tribulations usually progress in 3 rounds. The first 3 rounds of tribulation thunder are not very different from each other. Almost all cultivators can withstand it and use it to strengthen their bodies. The middle 3 rounds are to strengthen their bones. If you can get through it, you will benefit a lot. However, the last 3 rounds, starting from the 7th, are all thunder of annihilation. If you are not careful, not only will your body be destroyed, but your divine soul will also be destroyed, and you'll be doomed eternally. You can't be careless. You have to be more careful. Use all your defenses. Take out all the heavenly treasures that can be used. Put them in your Godfather's ring. After the 8th round, use all the things that can be used and eat all the things that can be eaten. Because in the 9th round of heavenly tribulations, you won't have a chance to open the space ring. Even if you hide in the Tower of Annihilation, the power of the tribulation lightning will increase by 1,000 times and destroy the tower directly. There is no way to escape. You have to face it head on. Hearing this, Xiaoduo shuddered and sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, the eye of tribulation in the sky stopped rotating. It was obvious that the 7th round of tribulation thunder was coming. Between heaven and earth, there was a sudden flash of light. A bolt of tribulation thunder broke through the sky. It was a new accumulation of tribulation thunder from before. It was brightly colored with white light, and there was a trace of purple gas lingering in it. The purple light wandered on top of the tribulation thunder, and then it came crashing down. This tribulation thunder was as thick as a water tank. It was like a big stick that reached the sky and the earth, and it came crashing down fiercely. Not only was this sudden, but it was also much faster than before. It was so fast that Xiaoduo didn't have time to swing his hammer. He only had time to raise it, and the tribulation thunder hit the 9-9 kitty hammer. Boom! The whole earth trembled because of this hit. Duo felt dizzy. An unprecedentedly strong force came crashing down on him. His whole body was like a piling, and he was directly wedged into the hardstone layer by more than 10 meters. A hammer smashing a nail. And Duo was that nail. The 9-9 kitty hammer. It was the nail's hat. Duo remembered Zhua Chonglu's words. He didn't dare to be careless. As soon as the force disappeared, he jumped out of the big hole, opened his mouth, and spat out a long line of black smoke. Damn, Duo was a little scared. That hit just now was basically all of his strength. But now, this was only the 7th round. He tried to circulate the spiritual energy in his body, but he still didn't swallow the 3 pills in his mouth. He also didn't unwrap the one wrapped in spiritual energy in his stomach. He couldn't refine it easily. This was his trump card, a trump card to turn the tables. At least for now, he couldn't use it. If he was forced to use it now, it would be over. Another white and purple bolt of tribulation lightning fell with a loud rumble. Duo was once again wedged more than 10 meters into the ground. After the 7th round of 10 tribulation thunder, Duo's whole body was in tatters. His coat had been blown away, leaving only a pair of shorts and a vest on his upper body. The Inferno Witch's helmet was the worst. It was completely turned into ashes and fell on Duo's head. From head to toe, there was black smoke steaming everywhere. He breathed through his nostrils and opened his mouth to exhale. What came out was also black. Tut, tut, tut. It felt like a tractor burning its tank. It's about to be the 8th round. Wu Yuding, Zhua Chonglu, and the other 2 suppressed all the space around them with their huge divine senses. And it was the kind of suppression that suppressed even the space. So much so that before the surging evil thoughts could reach them, they were directly crushed between heaven and earth by the 4 of them, not leaving a single drop behind. At the right time, a rainbow fell from the sky. It came extremely fast, leaving a trail of dazzling light wherever it passed. The reason why it was called a rainbow was because this lightning actually contained extremely clear 9 colors. It included red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, and black colors. This was 9 tribulation thunder. 9 different heavenly Tao mixed together to form a different kind of tribulation thunder. Cough, not the 9th round. This tribulation thunder's volume was visible to the naked eye, reaching up to 5 meters in diameter. At this moment, it was as if a solid pillar suddenly fell from the heavens, smashing down on Duo's head with the force of a mountain. Yes, it was smashed. Yes, or should it be smashed? There was a poem about this situation. Just as Buddha turned his hand, the monkey was pressed down on the 5 elements mountain. There was no need to ask about the cause and effect. It was only because he was too arrogant at that time. Duo only had time to let out a good boy sound. The moment the strength flowed into his arms, he forcefully raised the hammers in both hands, resisting the huge tribulation thunder with one hand in front and one behind. With a loud explosion, the tribulation thunder had already smashed on the right hammer of the 9-9 cat hammer. The hammer in the right hand seemed to have no resistance at all, and it was pressed down in the opposite direction. Immediately, it smashed on the hammer in the left hand, making an earth-shattering sound. Then, the 2 hammers on the left and right turned upside down, smashing down on Duo's head. Duo's reaction was lightning fast. He retracted his head in time and didn't get hit on the head by the 2 hammers. However, he still couldn't avoid being hit by the 2 hammers on both sides of his shoulders. Burp. Duo felt that his whole body was about to explode. The Vajra iron bones were also forcefully pressed into the mountain rocks by the boundless might of the tribulation lightning. An inexplicable aura suddenly surged into his internal organs. It was colorful and filled with all kinds of destructive power. In short, it was a mixed feeling. All of Duo's internal organs were swollen from the wind. In an instant, the remaining heavenly king-level demonic beast fur on his body was all turned into ashes by this tribulation thunder. Zhou Xiaoduo was completely naked from head to toe. Not a single hair was left. Clean and slippery. Yes, it was clean and slippery all over, which was even more unsightly. However, the substantial nine-colored tribulation thunder above his head hadn't completely disappeared yet. It was still smashing down with a ton sound. It was like a person who had been holding it in for a long time and finally found a chance to vent hysterically. It was desperately smashing down, full of a certain kind of pleasure. I smash. Smash. In the distance, Zhuo Chonglu and the other 4 people who were watching this scene watched the tribulation thunder fall from the sky with a blank expression. 7 colors, solemn and inviolable. It smashed down just like that. There was only a clear and melodious sound that spread in all directions. Zhou Xiaoduo was like a red-hot nail being slammed into frozen white oil. He disappeared with a whoosh. That tribulation thunder didn't stop. It was like a substantial giant hammer, smashing down on the mountaintop with a loud bang. It pierced through the heavens and the earth, shining with 9 colors. Then something even more unbelievable and unimaginable happened. This tribulation thunder was like a pile driver that had found a place to vent. Pulled up, boom, fell down, pulled up, boom, fell down, pulled up again, boom. It was like there was an ancient, immortal god in the sky, holding a huge, colorful hammer, smashing down in extreme anger, gnashing his teeth as he smashed as the tribulation thunder continued to smash down as if venting its anger. Zhuo Chonglu, Wu Yuding, Lei Chong Tian, Bai Yunduo, Zhuo Xiaoyan, the 5 of them were in a daze. Their eyebrows were twitching wildly, the muscles at the corners of their eyes were twitching, and the corners of their mouths were twitching at this. How was this tribulation thunder? This was simply venting its anger. How did we offend you? As for this, that they could even feel a clear sense of resentment. And that was, who asked you to be cheap? Who asked you to be cheap? Who asked you to be cheap? Chapter 1183. Boom, boom, boomed. The 9-color tribulation lightning smashed down 36 times in a frenzied and hysterical manner, smashing Zhuo Xiaoduo down 600 meters from where he was standing on the ground. Moreover, there were no cracks on the surrounding rocks. Finally, its power was exhausted, and it disappeared with a puff. Xiaoduo, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Wu Yuding called out worriedly. Before she could finish her sentence, a completely charred, naked thing rushed out from the huge crater created by the tribulation lightning. This thing's entire body was filled with the smell of being barbecued. Streaks of 9-colored light flickered on his body, slithering around like spirit snakes. She was a pregnant woman who was at least 10 months pregnant, and her belly was as big as triplets. Puff! So Xiaoduo finally breathed a sigh of relief. He opened his mouth and spat out a colorful aura. Well, there were also burnt ashes mixed in as he spat out this breath that a certain charcoal's 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 2 eyes. All of them spewed out rainbow aura after that. His lower body couldn't help but let out a loud cry. The front part of his body spewed out rainbow aura like a long dragon, and the back part he stuck out but a very thick rainbow aura spewed out from his indescribable part, because the 9 orifices on his body continuously spewed out rainbow aura at the same time. The subject naturally and unnaturally assumed a strange posture of sticking out his chest and sticking out his butt. For a long time, he kept puffing out rainbow aura. The rainbow aura that he spewed out condensed and rushed out for dozens of meters. Oh my God! Wu Yuding turned her face away, unable to bear the sight. Bai Yunduo also turned her back with an embarrassed expression. She couldn't bear to watch. She really couldn't bear to watch. Wu Yuding looked to her side with a twisted face, only to see Zhuo Xiaoyan blushing. She covered her eyes with her hands shyly, but her fingers were spread open, and her 2 rolling eyeballs stared unblinkingly. Slap. Wu Yuding covered Zhuo Xiaoyan's eyes with one hand. Stop looking. Do you want to wash your eyes? On the other side, Lei Changtian and Zhua Changlu each had a mobile phone in their hands. They used their magical powers to bring the situation before their eyes. Obviously, they were recording this moment of the century. This was an extremely precious video. On the screens, where Xiao Duo was stretching his neck, tilting his head, puffing out his chest, and sticking his butt up high out his eyes, ears, mouth, nose, and lower body. Were constantly spewing out rainbows. Xiaoduo's body was almost stiff, and it couldn't move at all. All it could do was continue to spray. As the seven-colored smoke continued to spurt out, the extraordinarily large belly finally began to shrink, and the bulging muscles all over its body also gradually disappeared. If this gets out, this guy will definitely become the most popular person in society. A large-scale social death scene. Lei Changtian was enraptured as he watched. It's really a marvelous spectacle. I'm in awe. You can clearly see the rainbows coming out his fart, and the billowing smoke is endless. TSK, TSK. TSK, TSK, TSK. Lei Changtian rubbed his head and deeply felt that the video he had saved was really too rare. That scene was really too beautiful, too beautiful, too beautiful. If this was made into a movie and shown on the big screen, the box office would directly explode. This is an unprecedented, super creative idea. Perhaps some people have thought of it before, but no one has ever put it into action. Just the scene alone would make this movie worth it. Lei Changtian suddenly had this idea, but he turned to look at his daughter and wisely dismissed this idea. Keep it for yourself. If you have nothing to do, take it out and observe it. Although the temptation was great and it was a scene of the century, compared to his daughter's death chase, it was still slightly inferior. His life was still more precious. Tens of thousands of meters below the cliff, the monster was curled up motionlessly and slightly trembling. Oh God! Oh Earth, what did this guy do up there? What did he do to make the heavenly tribulation do such a thing to him? This is really an eye-opener. I've only heard of the heavenly tribulation striking people, but I've never heard of the heavenly tribulation beating people up. The power is all contained in it, just to last a moment longer, to be able to continuously beat people up. Just do it, just do it. What an eye-opener, what an eye-opener. Zhuo Changlu was focused on the video, staring at Zhuo Xiaoduo's, but that was still freely blowing out smoke. He was happy and worried at the same time. This eighth tribulation for a cultivator is to refine the 5 viscera, 6 bowels, blood vessels, and meridians. The golden crystal lotus, sky heart flower, sun moon fruit that I prepared before. Although they didn't have a protective effect, they still played a considerable role in depleting energy. There's hope that I can make it through. But looking at the current situation, Duo has already reached his limit. The upcoming 9th tribulation is much more powerful than the 8th. How can he make it through? The 9th tribulation is aimed at the divine sense, spirit, and soul. It's most likely that the divine sense and soul will be destroyed. If something goes wrong, the divine sense and soul will be destroyed. The 99 cat hammer is in the state of being refined by the heavenly tribulation for the 2nd time. It's difficult to use it. How can Duo make it through the 9th tribulation? The more Zhuo Changlu thought about it, the more worried he became. The video of the century lasted for more than a minute. Only then did Zhuo Xiaoduo fully release the power of the rainbow in his body. Cough. He maintained the same posture throughout the whole process. His whole body was stiff, and he couldn't move. He just kept releasing the rainbow. Halfway through the process, the power was slightly reduced. His eyes, nose, and ears were no longer released. Only his mouth and the front and back of his lower body were released. After all, these 2 orifices were usually better at this kind of thing. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body was stiff. Even he himself felt that his current state was too shameful. Right now, I don't even have a single strand of hair on my body, let alone clothes. It was too shameful. So many people were looking at me. Fortunately, they weren't outsiders. There was no need to mention his mother, father, and grandfather. They were his elders, so it was fine that they had seen him. Mom and Dad had seen me naked long ago. Although they didn't spend much time with Grandpa, they might take a bath together in the future. It was an advance payment. He didn't have to worry about sister-in-law. She had already left. The most annoying one was Nyen Nyen. Did you think that your husband didn't see you peeping? But forget it. After all, she was his future wife. It was okay if she saw me naked. When the power of the rainbow was completely released from his body, he finally regained his ability to move. He felt the surging spiritual power in his body again, and his internal organs were strengthened a little. Zwa Xiaoduo immediately jumped up. He wanted to cover himself. Even if his whole body was black, he was still naked. It was necessary. Although it's a good thing, it's still a little embarrassing. So Xiaoduo quickly wanted to grab something. At least it could cover the front and back of his lower body. But at this moment, the nine-colored light in the sky flashed again. Boom! The second lightning tribulation fell from the sky without mercy. I changed. I won't dare. I won't dare to be arrogant anymore. So Xiaoduo screamed miserably. His words were full of sincerity. This was sincere repentance. If he was given another chance, he wouldn't dare to provoke the heavens like this, even if he was beaten to death. Before he was struck, he would definitely kowtow a few times. But at this point, why would the heavenly tribulation listen to him? It was such a tasteless bootlicking. Boom! Crash. Xiaoduo was knocked down again. Then, the next lightning tribulation was the same as before. Get up and crash down. Get up, crash down. Get up, crash down. Like a pile driver, it kept going up and down, crashing down, crashing down, crashing down, crashing down. Streams of multicolored gas passed through the top of his head and entered his body continuously. Boom, boom, boom. The frequency of the crashing this time was obviously much faster than before. So Xiaoduo felt that he had really become a dummy. Yes, a dummy that was crashing down. So Xiaoduo was slammed straight down. His body was getting smaller and smaller, and his stomach was getting bigger and bigger. His muscles were once again filled with rainbow energy. Perhaps it was a moment, or perhaps it was a long time later. With another boom, the second lightning tribulation ended. The last crash was very light compared to the previous one. It was almost like a bump. But poor Xiaoduo was now like a large balloon. His stomach was bulging, and it was more than 1 meter in diameter. He looked like a huge pufferfish. After being hit like this, suddenly, he bounced up. There was too much rainbow energy in his stomach. So he floated up from the ground. He rushed out of the ground and didn't stop. He floated up and floated up into the sky. Duo, who was already in a daze, opened his mouth subconsciously. Then he stretched his neck, stuck out his chest, and stuck out his, but waves of rainbow aura erupted once again. A large-scale social death scene was staged again. Because he was in midair, his body maintained this stiff posture. But because of the reverse effect of the exhaust gas, yes, that's right, it was the exhaust gas, rainbow energy in the tail. Then, because of the reverse effect of the exhaust gas, it formed a strange scene of slowly spinning. As it spun, it spat out rainbows. It was like a human kaleidoscope, just like that. It spun in a circle, spraying rainbows in all directions. This kind of situation was definitely more dazzling than any fireworks. It was just that this posture was really not very elegant. Or it should be said that it was unsightly. So Xiaoduo felt that he was now a textbook example of shame and anger. Wasn't this heavenly tribulation too improper? You could do that on the ground, but why did you put me in the air? Were you afraid that others couldn't see it clearly? Fortunately, there were only the 5 of them in this realm. There were no other outsiders. At least they didn't throw him out of the house. But I'm still embarrassing myself. Below. The 5 guardians held back their laughter and took out their phones to start filming. Chapter 1184. Zhuo Changlu and Lei Changtian were already familiar with the process. Wu Yuding and Bai Yunduo followed suit and quickly got into the zone. Only Zhuo Xiaoyan's cultivation level was not high enough to pull the camera over and create a sense of déjà vu. Even if her eyesight was good enough, she did not have the corresponding spatial ability. She was about to miss the opportunity that she was extremely anxious. Hence, she hugged her mother's arm and begged Wu Yuding, "Mom, You have to send me the full video later. Go away. Close your eyes. What are you looking at? That's not good stuff. I don't want to. Little doggy is having fun now. I don't care anymore. Wu Yuting was speechless for a moment. In the future, during the new year, aren't fireworks banned everywhere? In the future, during the new year, I'll let little doggy go up and make some fireworks. It'll definitely be popular and praised by everyone. Zhuo Xiaoyan suddenly had an idea. Let your husband make fireworks in the sky naked? Wu Yuting was surprised. You can do it in our yard. Naked? Why don't you make a hole in your pants? You're a girl. Can you be more shameless? No. On the other side, Bai Yun's face was red, but she was still very strong and resolute. She took out her cell phone and started filming. This kind of situation might not happen again in millions of years, let alone once in 1,000 years. It was very likely that this would be the only time in history. It would be a pity to miss this opportunity to preserve the video footage. Seeing everyone's reaction, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was in midair, only had one thought. Luckily, Li Chenglong and the others didn't come to watch me break through. Otherwise, how can I still have the face to be their boss? On the ground, Bai Jiao and Xiao were jumping up and down and looking up. The three little ones were exclaiming, "Wow, Mommy is so awesome." Yeah, Mommy is so awesome. Mommy can actually say something nice. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. After confirming that the lens was focused, Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuting looked at each other and began to communicate telepathically. This isn't normal. What's going on? The 10 heavenly tribulations are jointly controlled by the heavenly Daos of the 9 clans. Each of them is responsible for one cycle. Which cycle of the heavenly Daos is responsible for this cycle? So far, there is no malicious intent at all. Yes, the so-called heavenly lightning strike was purely because they were indignant at the little dog's arrogant provocation and specially created a large-scale social death scene. As for the danger, there was not the slightest bit. Even the heavenly lightning strike was helping the little dog. Which clan's heavenly Dao master is this, to actually release such great kindness? How is it possible to have such complete consciousness? Isn't it too human-like? Yes, it seems to be a game. I'm guessing we'll have to go through this 8 more times. Zhuo Chonglu was still paying attention to the recording to confirm the situation. That's for sure. Until now, only the ancient Dragon Phoenix Tribulation hasn't made a move. It seems that the Dragon Phoenix Tribulation will complete the last heavenly tribulation. However, the Dragon Phoenix is famous for not showing mercy. Since they're here to join in the fun, there must be a reason. So, it's fine to lose a little face. The little dog also needs such a lesson. Besides, there are no outsiders. It's just a naked, and spraying some fireworks or something. But if the last heavenly tribulation falls into the hands of the Dragon Phoenix, it will inevitably become a life and death tribulation. It's not optimistic. Wu Yuting sighed and said, "No matter how worried we are now, we can't interfere. We can only hope that the Dragon Phoenix fate of Duo and Yin Yin will be able to make the last Dragon Phoenix tribulation show some mercy." Zhuo Chonglu nodded and didn't say anything else. In fact, he and Wu Yuting knew very well that this was impossible. What kind of existence was the heavenly tribulation? How could there be such a thing as showing mercy? Right now, the husband and wife no longer held out any hope for Zhuo Xiaoduo's so-called perfect heavenly tribulation. They only hoped that the heavenly Dao would allow him to pass through this situation, or even, as long as he could survive, it would be fine. What do you think is the probability of Duo surviving the heavenly tribulation? Wu Yuting was still worried, 90%. Zhuo Chonglu said very calmly. His voice was firm. His expression was calm. This sentence, these 2 words, were like a powerful, reassuring pill. Wu Yuting immediately felt relieved. Her husband would never be too sure of his words. Generally, when he said 80%, it basically meant 100% certainty. As for 90%, it was even more foolproof. There would be no so-called accidents. Zhuo Chonglu calmly continued to record, but in fact, he had already made preparations in case there was no other way. If the situation was really worrisome and Duo couldn't make it, he would use the sky-stealing, sun-swapping technique and sacrifice one of the minister's doppelgangers in exchange for Duo. Although this would cause Xiaoduo's great Dao to be damaged, and he would never be able to reach the peak in his lifetime. It would even be difficult for him to take another step forward. At the same time, it would also cause his strength to drop by one level. But it was much better than having his soul scattered. Only by staying alive would there be a future to speak of. That was why he made this promise. Because he knew that if he didn't say this, Wu Yuding would definitely do it when the time came. And his wife's cultivation was much weaker than his own. So, I'll do it when the time comes. So what Chonglu thought calmly and looked at the heavenly tribulation with full confidence. As a husband, as a father, if I have to do this, then who else but me? In the sky, bolts of tribulation, lightning continued to strike down, one after another. So Xiaoduo naturally maintained his naked state as he spun in circles in the sky and set off fireworks. The worst time was when his stomach was 3 times bigger than the most bloated period before. It was to the extent that he directly floated more than 800 meters in the sky. Under the watchful eyes of the 10 tribulation eyes, he floated back and forth. This was too much. So Xiaoduo felt that he was going to explode from anger. Most of the time, he was like a small jet filled with dye, flying back and forth under the clouds. Sometimes his boat would spray rainbows as he rushed forward. After rushing to a certain distance, the front of his lower body would spray rainbows, and then he would retreat. And then halfway back, his mouth would start spraying rainbows as well. There was also a recoil, or perhaps a forward recoil. After 2 rounds, the only place left to spray was the buttocks. He flew as he sprayed rainbows. There was even a kind of feeling. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Buzz, 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 I'm a happy little bee. My ass. So Xiaoduo could feel that all around him there was resentment from the 9 great heavenly Dao. They were all looking at him gloatingly. Who asked you to be cheap? Kid, are you still cheap? Are you still smug? It's been so long. There hasn't been anything that dared to provoke the heavenly Dao in such a cheap way. Now, there's actually someone like you. Isn't it fun to play with you? Don't I care about my reputation? So Xiaoduo felt this resentment very clearly and very clearly. It was within reach and close at hand. He didn't know if others could feel it when they were going through the tribulation, but he could clearly feel it. Although he could feel it, so Xiaoduo didn't dare to let out a fart now. Cough. No, he was farting nonstop now. He was really bootlicking, and it was a continuous stream of bootlicking. In short, he didn't dare to show even the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. He really knew. It turned out that the heavens really did have emotions. Mamma mia, this is too scary. You should have said that you had emotions earlier. You should have said that you had feelings earlier. How would I dare to provoke you? I would have definitely tried to please you and flatter you. Even if it was bootlicking and bootlicking, I wouldn't have hesitated at yes, what I'm doing now is really bootlicking, but it's not the same as what I'm saying. He was getting closer and closer to the tribulation clouds. Countless thoughts began to surround Xiaoduo. Xiaoduo could clearly sense that several consciousnesses were even conversing with him. Are you going to be wild again? Why aren't you being wild anymore? Show me one more time. Provoke me. Can't you do it? Aren't you cheap? Where's your ability? Do you believe that I'll strike your penis so hard that it won't grow back forever? Tell me if you don't believe me. Little kid, I can't do anything to you. I'll fuck your ass until it blossoms and blossoms. I'll teach you a lesson. It's rare to see someone so cocky since the beginning of time. Don't be scared. You can continue to do this in the future. Today's show was very good. You can continue to do this in the future. Take it easy, you guys. I can't stand this cheap look. I can't stand it either. Me too. Me too. Cheap people will be punished by the heavens. Haven't you heard of this before? Xiaoduo trembled, but his stiff body couldn't do anything else. He couldn't even beg for mercy. He could only try his best to show an expression of begging for mercy in his eyes. However, those cowering little eyes, those pitiful little eyes, those innocent little eyes, those ignorant of the world, pure, innocent, bright, ignorant, adorable, all kinds of expressions were vividly displayed in Xiaoduo's eyes. This guy is still acting. Does he really think that this little trick will work? Let's do it again. So Xiaoduo now felt that he had been reduced to a toy. Yes, a toy of the heavenly axiom. However, on second thought, he could not help but feel smug and proud. Since ancient times, who could become a toy of the heavenly axiom? Could the heavenly axiom casually play with him? What a joke. That required great luck, great courage, great achievements. Could Li Chenglong do it? Could Long Yuxing do it? Wan Li Xiao, Yu Moyan, and the others. A bunch of trash. Only eyes Wu Xiaoduo, creation of the heavens and earth. Since the beginning of time, unprecedented and unparalleled. I am proud. The heavenly axiom's consciousness was puzzled. This guy is actually arrogant. He's already like this. But is already blooming, and he can still be so smug. I really don't know where he got his arrogance from. Come, let's do it again. Let him show off. Let me think carefully, why is he so proud? Finally, it was the last one. The unprecedented, nine-colored, lightning tribulation struck a total of 99 times. So Xiaoduo flew into the sky like a pig's urine bubble that was as thin as a cicada's wings. Chapter 1185. Zhou Xiaoduo dared to swear. Even his father, Zhou Chonglu, wouldn't dare to play with such precision. If he had a little more qi, he would have exploded into fireworks that this level of control, this level of precision, this wasn't a level that a human could grasp at in this state. His whole body swelled, and he could even see that every meridian in Zhou Xiaoduo's body was flowing with nine-colored brilliance, that thus a new round of unprecedented spewing began at this time. So Xiaoduo once again heard the exchange of thoughts between them. The last round is controlled by you guys. Take it easy, don't kill him. In the future, when this guy has a breakthrough, we'll play again. That's right. This guy is really rare. Not bad. At least in my 30 million years. This is the first time I've met such a cheap guy. I've had a lot of fun today. That's right. I'm afraid it'll be hard to meet such an interesting cheap guy in the future. He has to stay. Otherwise, where else can we play? Keep it. After a long while, so Xiaoduo, whose bow was still spewing rainbows, finally landed from the sky. It had to be said that the landing posture was very beautiful. It was magnificent, riding the wind, riding the clouds, and spewing rainbows. He was completely naked from head to toe, without a single strand of hair on his body. He was no different from a newborn baby. However, this baby had a strong body and had already matured. Moreover, he was extremely mature. Some parts that should have matured were even more mature. It was very enviable. The more one looked at the pirated version, the more envious they were. When Xiaoduo landed on the ground again, he had regained the ability to move. His first reaction was to quickly pull out a robe and put it on his body. Now, he had to quickly cover his naked butt. The legend of the Snow White under the moonlight couldn't continue anymore. But on second thought, he realized that this still wouldn't work. There would be another heavenly tribulation later, and it would definitely be more powerful than before. Thus, he took out another set of clothes and hurriedly put them on. His movements were so awkward and flustered that he looked like an adulterer who was in the middle of an affair and whose husband had suddenly returned in the small amount of time that he had. He was going to move things around and wait for the final moment. Heavens! So the tribulation was actually such a frightening thing. Transcending the tribulation was truly the most dangerous, most terrifying, and most frightening thing. The heavenly Tao was indeed able to sense it. The heavens were indeed able to see that you scared me to death. Boom, in the future, I won't dare to act cheap anymore. I must turn over a new leaf and turn over a new leaf. In the face of the heavenly tribulation, I don't dare to say a word, so Xiaoduo felt so wrong that tears were about to fall from his eyes. I just said something stupid. I didn't mean anything bad. Do you have to take it so seriously? Do you have to make fun of me so seriously? You are, after all, the masters of the heavenly Tao who have been in charge of the world for tens of thousands of years. Shouldn't you be aloof and reserved? Even if others offend you, shouldn't you just smile and be magnanimous? Was there a need to be so unforgiving? using the rainbow energy to drive me into the air like a jet. You have the nerve to do that? Was this something that the great masters of the heavenly Tao could do? How dare he treat an obstruction as something interesting? This was simply intolerable. Even if the uncle could tolerate it, the aunt could not tolerate it. Subconsciously, he took out the 9x9 kitty hammers. However, the moment the hammers were in his hands, he was violently electrocuted. He felt his entire body go limp and weak, unable to maintain it. Fuck, there was actually a portion of the power of the heavenly tribulation left on the 9x9 kitty hammers that Xiaoduo was stunned on the spot. Fuck is this? Is this some kind of secret technique to seal my weapon? How am I going to transcend the tribulation like this? Aren't you acting shamelessly? Are you worthy of being the heavenly Tao if you can do something like this? What happened to the heavenly Tao being selfless and fair? How am I supposed to pick up my weapon and beat you up when it's electrified? And Geo suddenly appeared. In a flash of black and white light, they entered the 9x9 kitty hammers with great familiarity. However, they completely ignored the power of the heavenly tribulation lingering on the hammers. The next moment, the 9-colored light on the 9x9 kitty hammers suddenly disappeared. Then, they automatically floated up and fell back into Zhuo Xiaoduo's hands. Zhuo Xiaoduo weighed them in his hands and suddenly felt as if they were weightless. It was as if he was holding 2 papier-mâché hammers. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo was well aware that the weight of the hammers was still there. In fact, they were much heavier than before. This was a rather strange and contradictory feeling that was unusually real. It came from the bottom of his heart. It was natural, but he couldn't figure out the source. It was a wonderful feeling. Good babies, I didn't dote on you two for nothing. So Xiaoduo knew very well that this result was due to Bai and Jiu suppressing the power of the heavenly tribulation that was still lingering on the 9x9 kitty hammers. His 2 babies deserved great credit. So Xiaoduo felt very comforted. With children, everything would be fine in the depths of the 9x9 kitty hammers that he couldn't see. Bai and Jiu held hands and opened their mouths to swallow with all their might. They didn't have time to care about Xiaoduo's mother outside. It wasn't easy to wait until the heavenly tribulation was at the end of its flight. However, there were still some nutrients in it that hadn't dissipated. It was the most ripe time. If they didn't swallow it now, when would they? This was the most delicious thing. The 2 babies ate with all their might. Their 2 little mouths swallowed like whales. There was only one thought left in their minds. Bai swallowed and poured energy into Gio's body through their hands. Gio swallowed and poured energy into Bai's body through their hands. As the 2 babies continued to pour energy into each other, the energy of yin and yang was gradually formed. During this period of time, the energy of the 3 souls and 7 spirits that the 2 babies had swallowed was broken down and transformed into the purest energy. It saved them a lot of time to destroy the remaining souls. The 2 babies held hands and swallowed like whales in a hammer. They were so excited that they shook their legs and ate heartily. The 2 of them didn't fight and entered the hammer from the beginning. Wasn't it all for this moment? What a delicious meal. How delightful. At this time, the 10 heavenly tribulation eyes in the sky started to spin again. They spun and finally disappeared one by one. Zhuo Chonglu and his wife's expressions didn't improve at all. Instead, they looked very worried and their expressions were extremely ugly. The clouds in the sky were getting thicker and thicker, and the colors were also colorful. It was extremely magnificent. In the end, all the colors blended into the other colors. The entire sky was like an extremely complex yet extremely magnificent color palette. In the center, there was a huge heavenly tribulation I left alone. Yes, there was only one heavenly tribulation I left. The colorful clouds on both sides were separated. The surroundings were like a black hole, deep and endless. The colorful clouds on both sides were rolling and circling in the sky. At this time, a golden dragon suddenly appeared, shaking its head and wagging its tail. Its body was tens of thousands of feet long. The moment the dragon lowered its head, its huge dragon eyes shone brightly as it looked at Zhuo. Just one of its eyeballs seemed to be bigger than the mountain under its feet. On the other side, there was also a seven-colored phoenix. With a clear cry, it descended majestically. In an instant, the dragon's sword and the phoenix danced in the sky. It was extremely magnificent and indescribable. This sudden turn of events caused everyone below to be dumbfounded. Gusts of fierce wind blew as the golden dragon circled, and the colorful phoenix spread its wings that whoosh, whoosh, whooshed out on the ground. Dust and sand were flying everywhere. The wind on the ground had reached a level above level 9 in the blink of an eye. Countless people who were looking at the strange phenomenon in the sky couldn't even open their eyes. They hurriedly went home and closed their doors to avoid the sudden change in the weather. The higher the cultivation of people, the more they felt their souls trembling. They did not dare to move recklessly. From a moment Zhuo started to transcend the tribulation, those with higher cultivation understood that this was a peerless genius transcending the heavenly tribulation. This guess was not difficult at all. The external traces were too obvious. Based on this knowledge, countless experts within a radius of 10,000 miles were all rushing over. After all, this was the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation. It was quite rare. For those who had not broken through to the Skysoar realm, if they could observe it from a close distance, it would be a great reference for their future tribulation. It could be said to be a heaven-sent opportunity, an excellent opportunity. Even without observing it from a close distance, even if they were a few hundred miles away, they could feel the aura and aura. It could be said to be a great benefit. If they could receive blessings from the heavens at the moment when the person transcending the tribulation broke through, it would benefit them greatly and endlessly. In other words, the closer a cultivator was to the place of transcending the tribulation, the more benefits they would receive. Who would be willing to let go of such a heaven-sent opportunity that was close to being a freeloader? As they rushed over, all kinds of envy, jealousy, and hatred rose in their hearts. It was a pity that these people came to a place about 500 miles away and could not go any further. Zhuo and the other three were guarding here. They had already set up an impenetrable barrier. With these four people working together, no matter who it was, they could forget about coming over. This matter was related to her son's lifelong achievement. How could she let those with evil intentions enter? Not to mention that Wu Yuding had a bad temper. Even if she had a good temper, she would absolutely not allow it. Not to mention people, even the surging evil thoughts were all directly destroyed by the divine sense. Especially now that they were at the critical moment of the last round, it was not as simple as Wu Yuding and the other guardians not letting them pass that at this moment, even the sky could not be seen. Those with low cultivation were still fine. Those who knew to go back home and sleep or lower their heads to not look at the sky and do other things. Naturally, nothing would happen. As for those who had higher cultivation and wanted to cause trouble, if they chose to resist, they would find that the foundation of their true origin that they had painstakingly cultivated was slowly dissipating. This was too scary. We just wanted to watch from the sidelines and freeload. Is there a need to be so cruel? We just didn't watch the original version, right? We just didn't rush to the VIP section at the starting point, right? We've already changed it, okay? We'll be good brothers in the future. Chapter 1186. The sky was completely dark. Not even a little bit of sunlight could be seen. Even Dongfang Zhengyang and Nan Zhengqian, who were in Shangjing City, could not see anything. Yu Dongtian, who had a higher cultivation level, could see some clues, but he did not dare to come over to join the fun. That not only did the three of them not come over to join the fun, but they also set up another line of defense in this direction. A line of defense that was personally guarded by the three of them. It had to be said that the extravagance of Xiaoduo's support for his breakthrough this time was extremely extravagant. But those guardians alone were so extravagant that it was almost impossible to replicate them. Ahem. I will not list them one by one here. The wind on the ground gradually rose to level 10, and the wind in the sky had exceeded level 14. It had reached a level that was unimaginable and unbelievable in the mortal world. Unfortunately, this little bit of wind was nothing to the dragons and phoenixes in the sky. They maintained a posture of slowly descending. There were all kinds of brilliant, magnificent, and dazzling lights and so on. The remaining tribulation eye between the dragons and phoenixes descended, and gradually came to a low altitude of about 1,000 meters. At this moment, the golden dragon's huge body suddenly coiled around the tribulation eye, and only the dragon's head was left. The phoenix fluttered and danced, and slowly perched on the tribulation eye. Xiaoyan could not take her eyes off it. It was also the first time that she had witnessed such a magnificent scene with her own eyes. She did not know why, but when she saw the majestic eyes of the phoenix, Xiaoyan vaguely felt a sense of intimacy that although the tribulation had stopped descending, it was still spinning, and it was spinning faster and faster. A great sense of danger suddenly enveloped everyone present. Xiaoyan's heart was beating like a drum. She instinctively put her hand to her mouth and shouted, "Duo, duo, be careful." So Xiaoduo's body was floating in the wild wind, and he nodded solemnly. At this moment, he clearly felt the greatest malice in the world. Everyone present, including Zhuo Changlu, did not notice that when Zhuo Xiaoyan shouted. The phoenix in the air, which had already rotated until only its outline was left, suddenly opened its eyes and glanced over at them like lightning. His eyes met Zhuo Xiaoyan's anxious eyes. The girl's extremely pure eyes only contained concern from the bottom of her heart, as well as the urgency of wanting to take his place. Then the eye of heavenly tribulation suddenly rose. 2 rays of light, one bright and one dark, flickered inside, and a huge thunderball suddenly took shape. Then the whole sky lit up for a moment, but then it went dark again. The lightning ball fell with a loud bang. Xiaoduo let out a long roar. The elixir that he had been keeping in his stomach and wrapped in true qi dissolved. Abundant and powerful spiritual energy exploded in all directions, rushing into his limbs and bones. Before the lightning tribulation fell, Xiaoduo was already full of energy, waving his 2 big hammers and rushing up to the sky in an evil manner. With 2 hammers in hand, the world is mine. An indescribable heroic aura suddenly rose from Zhuo Xiaoduo's heart. "You can smash me down," Zhuo Xiaoduo roared, "but you can never stop me from rushing up." The lightning ball rolled down from the sky. It was a huge lightning ball the size of a mountain. Under the reflection of the huge lightning ball, Xiaoduo was like an ant with 2 antennae. He was so small, but even though he was as small as an ant, Xiaoduo was still fearless. He rushed madly towards the huge lightning ball, and there was no turning back. The lightning ball flashed, and with the force of a mountain, it hit Zhuo Xiaoduo's hammers hard. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo had just performed the first move of the 1,000 Souls Nightmare Hammer. Boom. The whole mountain, river, and earth trembled. As soon as Zhuo Xiaoduo came into contact with it, he felt that something was wrong. The spiritual qi that he had gathered with all his might was like a snowflake meeting the scorching sun under the first tribulation of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. It dissipated without any resistance and disappeared without a trace. Boomed out at the moment of contact, Bai cried out in a tender voice, "Ah." Zhou also cried out in a childish voice, "Ah." The 2 of them rushed out of the 99 cat hammers and danced into the lightning ball. The lightning ball broke through the defense of the hammers, as if it was not affected at all. It continued to hit Zhuo Xiaoduo fiercely. In an instant, Zhuo Xiaoduo only felt that his 3 souls and 7 spirits were scattered. Facing the heavenly tribulation, the protective true core energy could not resist at all. It was consumed in an instant, and the true core energy flowed through his body. The moment Zhuo Xiaoduo's soul left his body, he even saw that his body was completely transparent at this moment. Whether it was his muscles, bones, or internal organs, every inch of his skin was clear and transparent. Xiaoduo knew that he could not panic at this moment. He held on to the last bit of clarity in his heart and used his willpower to prevent the hammers from falling. He raised them up with all his might. At this moment, he only felt that his soul was suffering a lot. All kinds of life and death parting, all kinds of pain and troubles, and the pain of being stabbed by sharp blades and axes were endless. Then, many lights and shadows appeared in front of him, so Zhonglu's entire body was covered in blood. His body was full of swords and sabers. He was leaning against a tree. It seemed that he was no longer breathing. The enemy's sabers and sword were still smashing towards his body with a whistling sound.